They only knew my struggle. Oh, Wendy Bell Radio is live.
Hey, everybody. Who's number one?
Yeah, that did not go over well.
Who's number one? I understand we're supposed to be banning John. Are you putting the machinations in place for that?
Well, I'm waiting for it to all come up so they can hear it.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe John, who called me fake.
He stood by his word, too.
Fake. Really?
Yeah.
Why would I be fake?
You give out fake beer?
I don't give out fake beer.
No, I'm going to have to call that fake news.
I give it to you and say, I want you to try this and tell me if it's as awful as I think. And then you say, oh, and then what did you have? Multiple real beers after you made a fuss and then decided to take a highly, highly suspicious picture of me drinking a beer while I was digging holes.
You weren't really digging.
Digging holes for plant life.
Well, all I'm saying is that John called you out. Buffalori on the app called you out this morning. People were saying that Wendy can't be number one anymore. Membership has its privileges.
I've never been number one. Ever.
Now,
even when we're practicing, before we even had a show, you would be number one. So everybody
on the app was there probably 5 minutes after he was ready.
Hey, man, don't brush your teeth when it's critical.
Yeah.
I mean,
come
brush
on, John.
and lose. I mean,
John, John came up with excuses, which is mighty liberal.
Yeah, I don't know what you want me to do here, yo.
Yeah, but he, you
I hate to
call people out, but
I love that this is what we are squawking about on a Monday.
Yeah,
fantastic. I love it.
He called you out. I said, hey, listen, that almost calls for a banning.
Well, I don't know. Ban them then. Get rid of them.
Because if you don't put down the heavy hand, you're setting precedent, right?
I had merely suggested during the very beginning of George Floyd, et cetera, that all it took was one officer with one act of stop it and decisive action, and we wouldn't have had such a catastrophe. All it takes is one ban for Johnny B to get the message, and for the ripple effect.
Oh,
the silencing to be widely understood.
Well, that is my mighty liberal view. The silencing.
I don't think it's liberal at all.
Of dissent.
I don't.
Yeah. Well, he called you out, and
Well, you still seem to not be banning him, so apparently you like the game.
Okay, if you can't hear, that's on you.
Yes,
make sure your Rumble volume is up. Yeah, but number one, you didn't even let me get. You're like, let me know when it's up, and you kept hitting refresh.
You did it anyway, and you hopped in pretending to be me. That was fake. I wanted to do it by myself. And he's like, do you want me just to do it for you under your login? And I was like, no, I want the experience of being number one. And so Clown Sandwich over there already did it.
I had already done it because you're like, it's not loading. It's not loading.
I told you I would solicit your help if I needed it.
Well, by that time, I'd already done it.
Keenly aware. That's what I'm saying.
But you were still...
Does everybody see what's going on here?
Wow, John's doubling down again. Fake beer lover.
Whatever, John. John's going to be my new ire.
Oh, boy.
John's going to get it. And it wasn't even fake beer. I can't even put it into a fake beer category. That's giving fake beer a bad name.
Did it have alcohol in it?
No, it wasn't even
beer. Then it was fake beer.
But it wasn't even beer.
It was meant to mock the beer.
Yeah, well,
much like a hamburger.
Fault.
Why eat a fake hamburger if you can eat a real one?
I was interested in whether or not I like the flavor of the IPA I like so much. Would I drink it if there was something parallel that was not alcoholic?
Uh-oh, people are sticking up for John.
You know what? All of you who want to stand up for John, okay? That's what you get. Because if you want, I'll withhold
No, you
today's.
won't.
Yes, I will.
You don't even know how.
I will withhold today's show. I will call for no sound, and all of Brock's work over the weekend will be for naught. Do you want to keep rumbling with me, Brock? You want to keep it? Let's go.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Sassy and fussy on a Monday. Let's go. John?
Wow.
Tisk, tisk, John.
Wow.
I see you. And that should feel
He's
creepy.
gone silent, so I don't know. You might have scared him.
I think you're making up his comments because I haven't seen them.
I did not.
I haven't seen them, so it's not verifiable.
Are you calling me fake?
Yes.
You're saying I lie.
Yes.
You're saying I lie.
Yeah.
3,
Wow.
2, 1. Welcome to your daily dose of facts to fight off the liberal gaslighting.
You can be in the middle of a hurricane.
You have sanctuary in the city of Chicago.
Or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. You could be in a thunderstorm.
I am angry. We are not going back. Not ever.
North is still north. People can yell at you.
The hell with the Supreme Court. We will defy them.
North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. And in this business, right is still right, even if you stand by yourself.
We don't get fooled again. No.
Live across the fruited plain and from sea to shining sea, we're converting the Marxist left 1 hour at a time on the Wendy Bell radio program.
Well, hello, America, and beyond the fruited plain. Welcome home to the Wendy Bell radio program, your source for common sense conservative values 5 days a week. We're here every day of the week, the weekdays, we should say, 3 hours. Wendy Bell Radio Network app. Follow us. Join the live video stream. Also, the podcast, Wendy Bell Radio. We are all over the place. Newsmax TV takes our second 2 hours of the show, or last 2 hours of the show, I should say. And we're just delighted that you're here. So thank you. We got a busy show. We've got a judge who's just absolutely crazy over penalizing Donald Trump. We have a trucker war against New York City. We have a Harvard professor speaking out about the truth. We've got everything, as I dare say, ladies and gentlemen. The American Revolution has begun. And I'm going to explain that to you after the most important part of today's program. Every program, join with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. You know, I want to start. There's so much that happened over the weekend news-wise because, you know, Friday afternoon is a perfect time for big stories to drop. And they did drop on Friday. This monster judgment against Donald Trump, effectively handicapping him and his sons and their ability to do business in New York City, to use the name Trump, accusing them of doing something that they did not do with a victim that does not exist for a crime that never happened, but a penalty which is meant to destroy and to chip away, hammer in some chinks in Donald Trump's armor heading towards November. We're going to talk about that. But I was out for dinner with my husband, Joe, and one of my sons over the weekend. And it's unusual that there's only one boy with us. But the other guys were all busy, and so this one came along with us, and we went out to this cute restaurant, have some tacos and some margaritas and some chips and queso. It was great. And we sit down at the table, and it's Joe and me on one side and our son on the other, and I could tell from his face he was agitated. And he was agitated as he looked kind of peripherally at this, I guess, the couple sitting right next to me at the table next to us. And I really wasn't paying much attention. I was interested in the menu. This is a new place I'd never been. And we were like, all right, this is cool. Let's go. But our son was very agitated. And I wouldn't realize until about 15 minutes later when they got up and left, that our son looked at us and leaned forward and said, look, I'm sorry, I was just very snarky with you, but I've been paying attention to this couple next to you, Mom, and I just really can't handle how they were behaving. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, what was going on? I wasn't aware. And he said, they clearly do not like you. And they were immediately on their phones, texting each other and texting other people and looking at you. And it's so frustrating to see people do that. And I said, well, I'm sorry that was hard for you. I don't care that they do things, that people don't like me. I don't care. I know who I am. I have no problem with who I am. I back up who I am with the research that I do, and I do it every day. And I'm like, the reason those people don't like me is because I do what I do. And he said, I understand that. It's just difficult. And then Joe said something that was really cool. I got up and went to the bathroom, and he told me later, after dinner, that he said to our son, look, it ends when you say it ends. It stops bothering you when you either take a stand and push back and say something, or you close that chapter and you stop paying attention. The question is, who are you going to be? What is your decision going to be? And this child of ours is not a confrontational human being. Most of us are not confrontational human beings. But there gets to be that time when you've had enough. And you pity the unsuspecting fool who happens to trigger that enough meter on you. Because usually they feel the wrath of what's coming. And so our son has a decision to make. Are you going to let it go? Are you going to allow people in school to say things about your mom? Are you going to allow them to pick on you and to rag on you and to needle you and to say stupid things in the hallway? Or will you have that tapping out moment where you drop your backpack and you say, that's it. We're taking it outside. This is a point, I believe, in our great American experiment, where enough people have been picked on, poked, sniped at, snarky comments, all of it. And they're tapping out. These are unsuspecting people. You wouldn't see them on the street and think anything of them. But they have been percolating because they've been watching, they've been listening, they've been hearing. Now, it's one thing if it's your mom somebody doesn't like. It's another thing when your entire way of life, when the place that you love is under assault, and you've been watching from the fringes, you've been seeing, you've been listening, and you've been feeling the discontent. What is the final straw? What is the moment that pushes you over the edge? That moment where you cannot go back, because it happens for all of us. Now, this might be a big ask of a teenage boy, but at some point you stand up for yourself, not necessarily for me, but you stand up for you, for your peace of mind, for what you believe, who you are, your truth, and you push back. Some people's threshold is bigger than others. But I dare say that son of mine is getting pushed to that point. And I do pity the fool who goes too far. This is America today. When I say we are on the cusp of an American revolution, it's already here. The battle lines are drawn, and unfortunately, there are some unsuspecting people who don't understand what is at stake because they have not journeyed beyond the benches of their camp. They don't see what we see. They drink in the propaganda and have been fooled by lies from those who just wish to control us. And this is how, back in the 1760s, things started for what would become these United States. We were 13 colonies. We were being taxed by Britain. Britain owned us. They ruled us. They made the decisions, and they were taxing the colonies on all sorts of things, but not representing the colonies. And enough of the colonists had enough. And it started with sporadic acts of violence. Britain pushed on the Stamp Act on the colonies, taxing all of the publications, a lot of the things that the colonists needed, and they pushed back. The Stamp Act was repealed. Next, they passed the Townshend Act, all sorts of other new taxes on the colonists. That led to the Boston Massacre. Townshend Acts were repealed, all those taxes repealed, but then they left the tax on tea as a symbol of Britain's control over the colonies, and that led to the Boston Tea Party. Britain closed the Boston Harbor. That led to the First Continental Congress, then the Second Continental Congress, then the Declaration of Independence, then the Constitution, and the formation of the three branches of government. What we are seeing right now, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what happened in 1760, in those years, an 8-year revolutionary war, so that we could assert our independence from tyrannical rule. Well, we're back in tyranny, ladies and gentlemen. What will be your Boston Tea Party? What will be your Boston Massacre? What will be your line in the sand? And then what will your role be in it? Will it be to sit on the sidelines and to record video of other people standing up when you should be the one doing so? Will you take the role of a keyboard warrior and chirp, or will you get out there on the front lines and fight? Because it has come to this, as it has come to this for one of my own children, that moment to decide, will you be pushed around forever with the steady erosion inside of you, as you know everything that's going on is wrong? Or will you stand on the uncertain side of war and fight back? That is your question today. And you're going to hear people on this program today who have made their decision loud and clear. What about you? Quick time out. We'll be right back on the Wendy Bell Radio program.
This statement could not be truer. If you have no enemies, it means you've stood for nothing, Ms. Texan. Agree 100%.
Don't disagree. And it was hard. I felt bad for my son, that he was upset that these people next to me who have no consequence to me, who I didn't even pay attention to, clearly were very unhappy that they were sitting next to me. And it bothered me for my son that he was uncomfortable. It did not hurt my feelings. I was not personally injured. I felt bad that he was in a predicament in which I could not help. And this happens as adults. You have to be able to decide, who are you going to be? Who are you going to be? What are you going to be? How far are you going to go? Why do I hear all the music? Is that okay? Is that common? Are we going to hear that?
Yes.
If I always heard that?
Yes. You've just ignored it.
But it's interesting to, like, I can't do anything else for you. I've given you my tools. I've given you all of these years of parenting and being there for you, and you've watched. So if it bothers you that people don't like me, you either have to ignore it and be cool with it, or you need to figure out how you're going to manage it. And in that moment, that's where he was. Where are you on the mat?
I don't think
Where are you in the ring?
I don't think it's a tough decision. I really don't.
Well, you're also 48.
Even when I was younger, like, I don't know, you stand up for yourself.
Before I get out of control here, let me tell you quickly about one of the many reasons why I love the Disc Institute of Pittsburgh. And Dr. Richard Rafferty, I think when you're dealing with something as serious as spinal problems, as a slipped disc, as a bulging disc, and you've been told possibly that you need surgery, that's a pretty big freaking decision. And all of us want the best decisions. And so you need a good second opinion. Before you decide, go see Dr. Richard Rafferty, talk to him. I don't care where you live. Because while he's in Pittsburgh, PittsburghDiscInstitute.com, he has people come in from all over the country, some people all over the world, because what he does is non-surgical. It's 98% successful and it works. And they'll answer your calls and it's free. They'll talk to you free. They'll tell you what they do. They'll direct you to the best of their ability. And if you need that therapy, intradisc neutrosis, they will help coordinate it with you. So don't suffer alone. Get that second opinion. Call Dr. Richard Rafferty, 412-906-9600. 412-906-9600, PittsburghDiscInstitute.com. Life-changing phone call. Just having somebody on your side can be 90% of it. You know, I can tell the battle lines are being drawn, and this is more than left versus right, conservative versus liberal. It is about just the basic things that we care about, and the basic things that we care about do not know political party because they are simple concepts. It's about feeling safe. It's about knowing that you're okay in your neighborhood to walk outside with your family. It's having a set of norms, of behaviors that you know everybody abides by. And all of that is thrown up into the air right now. And while I do blame Democrats, I blame every single Democrat out there, every single person who voted for Joe Biden, every single person who decided to fall on that bandwagon of, I'm not racist, I'm going to vote for Barack Obama, even though the guy had done nothing. Nothing. He served 1,414 days in the Senate. That's what he did after being a community organizer who was groomed by the people who hate America. I blame you, Democrats, all of you who voted for these people, because we told you this is what was going to happen. And so I read this headline now from BizPac Review. Perps are emboldened to fight. New York Police Department officers being injured in record numbers. And the story being picked up also by the New York Post. How about this? For the last year, in 2023, I want you to consider the staggering number. 5,363 New York Police Department cops were hurt on the job. 5,363 cops injured. That's 16 and a half a day. We have rampant disregard for rules. And it's being inculcated in our youngest generation, who look at their phones and get value in likes and trending and who's hot and who's not on social media. None of these issues matters. Listen to this story. 1,200 New York cops injured in just the last 3 months. And you've got George Soros-funded district attorneys like Alvin Bragg, who released 5 of the 7 thugs. And yes, the word thug fits. If you're a goon who doesn't care about hurting other people, that's called a thug. It is not a racial word. It is a descriptive word of somebody who sucks and who has no problem injuring others indiscriminately for whatever reason. But there's a new brand of thug out there now, and they are emboldened by these policies of the left. And this is why I blame people who voted in these lunatics. Allow the offenders to get away with it and go after the honest. Go after the bodega clerk who happened to have a knife just in case. who ended up getting jumped by a thug and stabbed him and killed him. And the bodega clerk is arrested and charged with murder. Ladies and gentlemen, everything is opposite day. Everything is upside down. Right is wrong, wrong is right. It's ridiculous. And now what you're seeing in New York City is the epicenter of suck. This is going on in blue cities all across America. A mass exodus. Because it's unaffordable. It is inconvenient. And now it is undeniably unsafe. When your line of defense, the police, are told to stand down and are assaulted by the thousands, we've lost our country. And so as we see an exodus from blue cities and states to places that are run conservatively, where the rules need to be followed because there is law and there is order, there is punishment, you're going to see these Democrat hellscapes with the people who can't afford to get out, people who are trapped, who have no escape, be swallowed in a flushing and filthy commode that was pre-planned. This particular article I find very interesting because the police officer in it is a young guy with a couple of kids. He has seniority in the New York Police Department. He's got extra vacation days. He's climbed his way up the ranks. He decided to bail on New York and move to Orlando, Florida, where he makes less money, is lower on the seniority totem pole, and is enjoying his life. Why? People are friendly. People respect law enforcement. When someone breaks the law, there are consequences. And he does not feel that every day he is in the line of fire. Battle lines drawn. A mass exodus away from unsafe, insecure, insane, untenable, unaffordable, ridiculous, inconceivable policies that put us all in the crosshairs. And the finding of not just warmth in some of these areas, but friendliness and faith and family values and neighbors who look out for each other and decency and morality and just goodness. Aren't you hungry for that? Because people will upend their whole lives in search of that safety and security. In the 1760s, it was a rebellion against Britain, against a monarch, against a tyrannical government. It was victorious. We are on the cusp of the same American Revolution. What side are you on? Quick time out. When we come back, one of the very interesting truth tellers, a Harvard professor, makes a decision to publish a study that he knew was going to inflame the left, and he did it anyway. Why? Don't miss it. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network. $5,363 cops injured on the job in 2023. That's freaking insane. Insane. Most dangerous neighborhoods: Bronx, Brooklyn, West Bronx, Southwest Bronx, Northern Bronx. I mean, this is not a surprise.
And they keep voting in Chuck Schumer and AOC.
And by the way, now you've got MS-13 and Venezuelan gangs setting up shop. So you've got, good luck. You're going to have gang warfare like you've never seen. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to be a cop? So you're going to have a mass exodus of police. They already do. There's I think 1,000 short in Chicago. And they're now saying you don't even have to have a GED. We don't even care if you've graduated high school. Do you have a pulse? Because we need you in Chicago. Perfect. It's great. Gives lots of confidence, doesn't it? All right, I want to tell you about Dr. Peter McCullough and this group of doctors who really became outspoken during COVID. These were the truth tellers, the people like Dr. Pierre Corey, who we had on the show last week. These are the people who were like, hey, wait a minute, we're not seeing, why are you doing these things, Dr. Fauci, that are contrary to what we're seeing in the hospital? Stop with forced ventilation of patients. Stop it with that. Make these affordable medications that are readily available and ridiculously safe. Make them available for everybody, like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. But what Dr. McCullough did is he worked with several other doctors and he started the wellness company. And it was basically a direct to consumer connection, like a pharmacy pad, a prescription pad, to give you an emergency kit with all of these various things that you might need in the event of another pandemic or of an outbreak of flu or of some kind of a whatever it is. You've got the kit in your hand to fix it. All right. So let me tell you what this is. If you trust your doctor right now, that's fantastic. A lot of people don't trust healthcare in general, specifically after the last several years. But awake doctors like Dr. Peter McCullough started the wellness company to build a parallel healthcare system and bring about much needed change. And part of that change is helping you to take back control of your health. And we've known this 90%, close to 90% of all of our pharmaceuticals are made in China. Outside of the US, we should say at least. We want to be able to be in charge of what we need and have it readily available. That's why this started. 8 potentially life-saving medications in this emergency kit from the wellness company. You can rest easy knowing that you've got it at your fingertips. Amoxicillin, ivermectin, a Z-Pack, a 22-page guidebook with complete instructions on safe use, from tick bites to COVID, natural disasters to supply chain shortages. Every single scenario is covered in this emergency kit. twc.health/Wendy. The Wellness Center, twc.health/Wendy. You're going to get 10% off if you drop that. And have this on hand. This is a very alluring thing to me with my family. I want to be ready. twc.health/Wendy. Save 10%. We all found it was very unusual that they would be intercepting in the male arena our ability to get ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Well, we know why now.
But are we surprised now?
No. I'm surprised by nothing anymore.
No. Nothing. All the dots are so easy to connect now.
This next story is really interesting, and I think it kind of belies this conversation that we have, Brock and I have commonly off the air, and it's, what percentage of the population will knowingly stand up and do what is right, especially when they know that the political fallout against them is going to be cataclysmic. What is it about those people who will step forward, who believe North is still North? What is it about them? What is it about them that prevents them from caving to the pressure that so many others do? I don't want to make waves, or I just rather be in the shadows, or, I don't want to get in trouble or whatever. And yet others are like, bugger off, regardless of the consequence. I feel compelled to do this and I have to. What is that? What is that necessary ingredient that is missing from the many that seems to be in just the few? I don't know. I'd love your thoughts on it, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'd love to know. It's the people who complain a lot, right? About their boss or about their work environment, that they complain about it.
But they don't do anything about it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the same. It's the same. Logic dictates it's the same thing.
I think it's baked into you. I have to be honest with you. I think it's baked into your DNA. I think it is who you are, or it's who you are not.
I think it's your parents. I think it's the way you're raised.
Well, then how do you have 2 kids who are very different from the same parents? I don't disagree with you. I think
I don't necessarily
has a lot of it.
My brother and I are exactly the same.
Well, I'm speaking from personal experience.
Right.
So We could not be more different, which is fine. Welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. I started falling for this story on Saturday morning when it first crossed my radar, but it's not a new story. It's just kind of coming out now. In fact, what I'm about to tell you about happened in 2016. And the story is about a Harvard professor. His name is Roland Fryer. And he, at the age of 30, became the youngest tenured Black Ivy League college professor in history at 30. This guy is obviously very bright. If I'm not mistaken, he's an economics professor. But he is talking in this particular interview that we caught and started researching a little bit. He's talking with Barry Weiss, and you might remember that name. Barry Weiss was a former columnist for the New York Times, and she left the New York Times out of protest for this homogenized kind of witch hunt reporting that she noticed at the newspaper. And she's like, look, there's not room for dissenting opinions. It's a hostile work environment, and I'm out of here. And it really kind of focused the spotlight on the beginning of the end of, I believe, your legacy media, because there is no objectivity really anymore. If there is, it's hard to find. The headlines all chirp the same things. They are mechanisms of propaganda for the uniparty itself. And I think more and more people are paying attention to this. But this particular professor decided he was going to do a study. And this is before George Floyd. This is before the summer of love. He wanted to see, as a Black man, he was interested in the idea that police officers might racially look at their suspects or people who they're going to arrest and treat Black and Hispanic people differently than they will white. And he thought for sure that was what he was going to find. He thought for certain if he was going to pore over most recent, say, years worth of arrest records, he was going to find an uneven harshness when the police deal with Black people in general. And he specifically was interested in lethal use of force. So in situations in which the suspect died, are police more or less likely to be harder handed on Black people or white people? Okay. He had an idea in his mind, but he decided to set out and do this. And when he got the research back, it blew his mind. In fact, he thought it had to be wrong, and so he did it all over again. And this took like a year. And the results came back the same. And he was going to publish his results when several of his Harvard colleagues said, you know what, you probably don't want to do that. You really don't want to do that. And he awakened in a really big way to one, that according to his research, the idea that police are inherently racist and discriminatory and very harsh to Black people was not proven. And number two, what was that there's a narrative that has been around for a long, long time that a lot of people will go to the ends of the earth to protect. And knowing that, he had a decision to make. Was he going to publish his research and suffer the wrath? Or was he going to swallow it and lose his pride? So here is Harvard professor Roland Fryer being interviewed by Barry Weiss, and he explains the beginning of how his research came to be. Listen.
I collected a lot of data. We collected millions of observations on everyday use of force that wasn't lethal. We collected thousands of observations on lethal force. And it was in this moment in 2016 that I realized people lose their minds when they don't like the result. So what my paper showed, you'll see tomorrow, like some of you, was that, yes, we saw some bias in the low-level uses of force, every day pushing up against cars and things like that. People seem to like that result. But we didn't find any racial bias in police shootings. Now, that was really surprising to me because I expected to see it.
I expected to see this, he says, and I did not find it. So in lower level things pushing up against police cars, yes, we saw cops more hard-handed with blacks than others. But when it came to deadly use of force, I was expecting to see something that didn't exist. And he says, in this soundbite, I was so baffled we had to do it over again to make sure this wasn't some weird anomaly. Go.
The little known fact is I had 8 full-time RAs that it took to do this over nearly a year. When I found this surprising result, I hired 8 fresh ones and redid it to make sure. They came up with the same exact answer, and I thought it was robust. And I went to go give it, and my God, all hell broke loose. It was a 104-page, dense academic economics paper with a 150-page appendix, okay? It was posted for 4 minutes when I got my first email. This is full of doesn't make any sense. And I wrote back, how'd you read it that fast? That's amazing. You are a genius.
They don't care about the results. Do not worry about truth. We're not looking for facts. We're looking for feelings. We're looking for the wave of emotion. We need the headline. We need everybody to believe this. And then for our media propagandist partners to run with it and continue to spread it as far as they can. And this professor, Roland Fryer, said, I doubled it. I did one group of research, one set of RAs, then I did it again with another fresh set. Result was the same. And people lost their freaking minds. See, it's not about science. It's not about facts. It's not about data. It's not about research. It's not about health. It's not about fairness. It's not about equity. It ain't about democracy. Certainly isn't about anything justice. It's about the narrative, protecting it at all costs. So Professor Fryer continues, and he got some squeeze by his colleagues, some advice. You probably don't want to do this. You don't want to publish this, yo. It ain't going to end well for you. And the ultimate quandary he was in. Go.
And I had colleagues take me to the side and say, don't publish this. You'll ruin your career. I said, what are you talking about? I said, what's wrong with it? Do you believe the first part? Yes. Do you believe the second part? Well, the issue is they just don't fit together. We like the first one, but you should publish the second one another time. I said, let me ask this. If the second part about the police shootings, this is a literal conversation. I said to them, if the second part showed bias, do you think I should publish it then? And they said, yeah, then it would make sense. And I said, I guarantee you I'll publish it. We'll see what happens.
Now, as I'm listening to this, and you hear the narrative break, they need the story of a racial divide. They need a story that white people look at black people as lesser than. They need the story that we are bitterly opposed to one another. When in reality, that's not the truth. And everybody knows it. If his research had proven that officers use excessive force more commonly against black suspects, of course, his colleagues would have said, publish. But because it didn't, they said, you know what? Put that on a shelf for another date. How is that any different than Carrie Lake being kind of bribed by the head of the RNC in Arizona to shelve her Senate campaign? Not right now. We're trying to do something, and you're going to get in the way. Hey, Professor Fryer, we're trying to push out this narrative that everybody hates each other because we need them angry and fighting always so we can get away with our suck. Put your stuff on a shelf. Maybe later. And he said, screw it. I'm going to publish it. So what happened next?
I lived under under police protection for about 30 or 40 days. I had a 7-day-old daughter at the time. I remember going and shopping for it because, when you have a newborn, you think you have enough diapers. You don't. So I was going to the grocery store to get diapers with an armed guard. It was crazy. It was really, truly crazy.
And how many people out there on the left have called the death threats? They've played that death threats card because they're desperate. They run out of tricks. They run out of trump cards. How can I get this next trick? I've got to do something. I'm going to create the illusion that I've been threatened, that people on the right are crazy and they're going to come after me. We're woefully apathetic about most things when it comes to other people because we're busy working, providing for our families, doing what we do. Who are the people creating the death threats? Well, Professor Fryer felt like he needed to have armed protection. And this is the greatest question of all. Barry Weiss is going to ask Professor Fryer at the end. Claudine Gay was the president, ladies and gentlemen, of Harvard University back then. And she was so upset with his research and its results that she put him under basic suspension, or at least kind of their own quarantine, if you will. He was in timeout for a couple of years because they didn't agree with his research. It certainly wasn't helping the narrative. And what ended up happening with Claudine Gay? Listen to the give and the go.
One of the details in this story is that you were suspended by a woman who I had never heard of until recently. Her name is Claudine Gay, and she said this in a letter to the economics department at the time. Professor Fryer exhibited a pattern of behavior that failed to meet the expectations of conduct within our community and was harmful to the well-being of its members. The totality of these behaviors is a clear violation of institutional norms and a betrayal of trust of the Harvard community. So I guess I want to ask, do you believe in karma?
I hear it's a mother.
And also, does calling for the genocide of Jews constitute bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
1,000%.
100,000%, yes. But I want you to hear this. Additionally, Roland Fryer was asked about the disparity between himself and his colleagues who had discouraged him from publishing his findings on police shootings. And in response, he expressed, "I don't covet what they covet. And I tell my undergraduates every year in the final lecture of my undergraduate class, each one of them, the key to Harvard is to get a great education without letting this place change you." Wow. Quick timeout, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, Charlemagne the God. Why would I have a bite from him on the show today? Well, much like Roland Fryer, he's dropping some truth. That's next. All right, my dearies. I can hear the ads more than usual, so though Brock is telling me that I don't, but I do, and I think you guys do as well, but it is what it is. I can't figure it out. I do want to tell you quickly about Texas Bullion, TexasBullionExchange.com. When you think about, and I was talking to my folks over the weekend, I had this great opportunity to do a FaceTime with them, and it's nice to see from thousands of miles away to make sure your parents are doing well. But we were talking about investments and 401ks and all sorts of other financial things because my father is a financial planner. And he made me think about this great way that grandparents and grandchildren, or even parents and their children, can get involved in saving for tomorrow in a certainly safe and reasonable way. And it's by investing in gold and silver. And how do you do that? You think you need to have gobs of money to do that. You don't. You don't. If you have a 401k or an IRA, it is totally reasonable, especially if they're stock and bond heavy. It's perfectly reasonable to get some of that and move it over into precious metals. And this is why I love talking to the folks at Texas Bullion Exchange. Look, they're not investment advisors, but what they are is they know they are the experts when it comes to precious metals investing. Gold, silver, palladium, and platinum. You can get coins like these, silver and gold, and they come in these really cool cases. Everything is certified. Everything's on the up and up. You can hold it in your hand. You can get gold bars. You can get gold rounds. You can get all sorts of stuff. These folks know how to do it. And it's a really cool way to teach, especially the younger generation, this idea of saving, about not spending everything you have, but about saving for tomorrow, because tomorrow comes and you sure as heck don't want to be broke. TexasBullion.com. Get in touch with them. Ask for your free gold investing guide. They're fantastic. 855-927-5557. 855-927-5557. That's our phone number. So when you call, they know you're affiliated with the Wendy Bell radio program. I think you're going to like talking to them. They are just common sense, reasonable, and certainly excited about this industry. And if you make a qualified coin purchase, you're going to save 10% by using our name. So get in touch with them. They're neat.
I think I fixed the music thing for you.
Oh, okay. They're just super easy to talk to, and it's nice to have somebody on the line who's, look, do they want your business? Of course, but do they want you educated? Absolutely. And they have a great time sharing their knowledge with you. So check them out. All right, so I got a couple things I want to squeeze into this bottom segment here. Jonathan Karl, ABC News, talks to Charlemagne the God. If you're not familiar with him, he's a radio host, he's a talk show host, he's a podcaster, he's an influencer in the Black community. He's also a very pesky truth teller, and he'll say things that are factual, just like Roland Fryer from Harvard University, regardless of the fallout. And you've got to ask yourself, why is it that these voices come forward and they're willing to do this? But I want you to hear what they're talking about. Jonathan Karl asks him, when you say things that are negative about the Biden administration, do they reach out to you? Do they complain to you? And he says, yeah, they do, but they cannot stop me because the truth is the truth. North is still North. Listen to the exchange.
Because I feel like you should be able to criticize whoever your elected official is, right? Yeah. And even if I do criticize them, I'm criticizing them because of what I see coming up in November. I see what we're facing. So what I'm saying to them is, where is the sense of urgency? You can't keep saying that there's a threat to democracy, and democracy as we know it is going to be gone, but not act like it. And the other problem is they've always done this with every single Republican candidate. Since I've been alive, whoever the Republican presidential candidate has been, they've demonized. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's John McCain. It doesn't matter if it was, Mitt Romney. It doesn't matter who it is. They will demonize the Republican candidate. And now that there's an actual legitimate threat right there in our faces, they're like the party who cried wolf. Nobody believes them.
Nobody believes him. The party that cried wolf. Now that is a damning indictment from this man. Battle lines being drawn, friends, in unlikely areas, but truth is truth. Now, I want to bounce over to the ultimate clown show of the day. You've got a morbidly obese man pretending to be a health advocate who's pretending to be a woman. This is Dr. Rachel Levine, a transgender individual who's an admiral in some health force or whatever, wearing this costume and barking at us that climate change now, did you not know this, is racist. Wait for it. Listen to insanity. Go.
Hello, I'm Admiral Rachel Levine. This Black History Month, I'm pleased to partner with OMH in advancing better health through better understanding for Black communities. Climate change is having a disproportionate effect on the physical and mental health of Black communities. Black Americans are more likely than white Americans to live in areas and housing that increase their susceptibility to climate-related health issues. And 65% of Black Americans report feeling anxious about climate change's impact. Through our Office of Climate Change and Health Equity and the Office of Environmental Justice, we're working with providers and community leaders to identify innovative approaches that empower communities to address the health consequences linked to climate change. Visit hhs.gov for more information and tune in next Thursday to hear from another HHS leader and how you can contribute to advancing better health for Black communities.
Is that not obnoxious and insulting? Insulting! We need a fake woman, right? Talking about a fake crisis, having fake effects that are racist. Got it. So I was listening to this and I'm like, 65% of Black people say they're very worried about the climate crisis and its effect on their community in specific. I was like, wow, where's all the source data on that, Admiral? Where is the documentation that underscores this? Well, I found it. It's from a place called Global Strategy Group, GSG. Do you know who these people are? This is a PR firm that goes out and does quote unquote polling to see what people of specific categories think about very specific things so they can use those specific things and create ads for Democrats. This GSG has decided in its research here, apparently, which is totally preposterous, that yes, 65% of these Black voters polled, a couple hundred of them, said that they were anxious about climate change. Do you know who this GSG has done commercials for and represents currently? Well, they are used by Joe Manchin, by Kirsten Gillibrand, by the ACLU, by Google, General Motors, and Pfizer. They are the campaign pollster for Andrew Cuomo. They ran Barack Obama's second-term commercials and produced highly targeted ads for very specific people. They're representing 20 Democrats in the House of Representatives as we speak. And it is their 65%, which is a garbage, farcical number if you were to actually do broader polling, that Admiral Rachel Levine has decided to extrapolate during Black History Month to talk about the racist environmental effects of climate change, particularly in the urban communities where Black and Hispanic people are. And that she, who's really a he, who's a health advocate, who's anything but healthy, is here to save the day. We're going to talk about this in justice terms. People are waking up. They see a clown dressed in an admiral's outfit, pretending to be something that they are not. And trying to get us to believe what they say. Is it not so ridiculously, comically farcical to you? Because it is to me. And Charlemagne the God, he is not swayed. He sees it for what it is. And so does everybody else. And the left knows that. It's a perfect segue into our second hour of this program today, because it's unusual for a member of Congress to, in just a few minutes, completely dismantle a leftist talking point. But Senator Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma does just that to an eco-alarmist. And it is, ladies and gentlemen, worth waiting for. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network. So don't parrot talking points that are created by bad research, that are put out by a polling company that's been hired to sway public opinion. That's your science, ladies and gentlemen. It's not facts. It's not data. It's not results like Dr. Fryer at Harvard, right? It's garbage from a dude pretending to be a chick. Really? Okay.
When's the last time they gave out real science?
This is
COVID.
Oh
no, that wasn't real either.
This is the headline: New Green 2.0 nationwide Black voter climate survey results. Specifically. So when you start seeing the push in specific to the Black community, this has been going on since this is October of 2022.
Everything about Richard Levine is contrary to what your eyes are seeing you. Or your eyes are seeing.
This is the
They're
emperor
telling
in
you
his
to believe
clothes.
I'm a woman, Believe I'm healthy.
Yes. Believe I'm healthy.
Negative
Believe it's gender affirming care to scramble somebody from the inside out.
Yeah.
It's love if you want to cut off your penis. Got it.
It's normal. No, it's not. But that dude, he stole the uniform. He stole the title. Mental health. He's a mental health expert in child obesity. Really? That's like me calling myself a trainer. No, that just doesn't fly that way. And the fact that we keep pushing these people on, they're forcing us to try to pretend, and now they're forcing us to say, I'm done. I was willing to leave you alone and let you do you, but you've now forced me to say, you are not stable. You are not dropping truth. You're dropping fiction every time you open your mouth. And I'm much like you. I'm done. If Richard Levine isn't the fact that I worked with someone that called him Richard, and he took offense, called the radio station, and the person had to apologize. I would have been like, no, we don't apologize for what? You're a dude. I'm not playing the game. No way. I'm just done with all the BS. You can't tell me that mental health isn't a crisis when you put him out there, when you want me to pretend that he doesn't have a mental disorder. The only true science is that a man pretending to be a woman is an actual diagnosis.
We've got a mental health issue in this country, ladies and gentlemen, and that we can diagnose.
Standing right in front of you, telling you everything's racist.
I will say something about Field of Greens that is, I, for about a week, did not drink Field of Greens. One, I did not sleep well enough through the night. I felt like I was dragging all week, and my stomach felt just weird all week long. It was odd. Like it was not settled. I will tell you what you get when you drink Field of Greens. In addition to the whole organic fruits and vegetables, each one which is specifically chosen for medical benefit in your body, right? Beyond that, how you feel, how your digestion works, how you sleep, your energy level, your enthusiasm. Look, if you're missing out on eating, 7 fruits and vegetables a day because there's no way, get Field of Greens in your life. I've got 15% off all first-time orders. If you're new, get 15% off going to Field of Greens using Wendy as the promo code. It comes like this. And it's a scooper situation, and you put a scoop of it in water, shake it up, drink it down. Some people drink it a couple times a day. I didn't. I drank it once, and the people who drink it twice, they say if they only drink it once, they feel a difference, and if they don't drink it at all, they really feel a difference. It just makes everything work.
It tastes good, too.
It tastes good. Fieldofgreens.com. Look, plus ginger, turmeric, green tea, licorice, all of these things for inflammation, for focus, all sorts of great reasons why these ingredients are selected. Fieldofgreens.com. Promo code Wendy.
I was actually surprised.
Yeah. When you were drinking, you were drinking lemon lime. It's so good.
I had both.
Did you?
Yeah. Remember I chugged the lemon lime?
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
you yelled
yeah.
at me?
Yeah. I'm a hot mess today. For no good reason either.
Really?
All right, how we doing? I haven't even looked. I said I wasn't going to say anything, and I'm not going to.
Don't look.
I am looking. 12,500 people.
Yeah, but don't look at the other number.
I did. It looks great. What's wrong with that other number?
Well, we've been over that. It's an hour into it. We should have a different number at the beginning.
Well, I'm sure all of the people who have the desire to hit that little button will.
Good way not to talk about it.
Isn't it weird? I have like this itch in my ear, but it's actually in my
throat.
Uh-huh. What the heck? So weird. Oh, I can't wait to hear what open you're going to use.
It's going to be different than what we usually play at 10.
Is that so?
Yes. This is for the... This is not a holiday. I don't want to hear this is a holiday.
School is off, but...
It's for the truckers.
Nice. We're going to talk about the truckers. Don't you worry about it, folks. We've got it backloaded, though. See, we want to drag you through the show today and force you to stick around until that bottom half of the third hour.
Wendy Bell. Inspiring solutions to save America, one show at a time. Are you ready to get on board?
When are you guys gonna learn? The more you indict, the more we unite. Facts. It's Trump 2024. We don't care. You heard me? We already made our mind up. You already know when the hood got your back. Man, they deep in the hood, gangsters, hollering about Trump 2024. You heard me? Woo, woo, wah. Gangsters. The hood got this man back. I'm just trying to tell you. You heard me? And we ain't stupid, man, American people, man. We ain't all them talking about lockdowns and back when the masks and all that. You know, they got a new virus coming and it's gonna be, man, nobody don't care. Ain't fooling nobody no more with none of that. You know, new jack, man, nobody being fooled no more. We all the way up, you heard me? It's Trump 2024. That's what it's gonna be, cause we ain't having nothing else.
From sea to shining sea, 3 hours of bold truth and excellence. The Wendy Bell Radio Program.
Hey! Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Wendy Bell Radio Program. As always, a thrill to be with you, and a reminder to all of you to get our podcast. 2 million people already have. Why not join our ever-growing army? Wendy Bell Radio, wherever you get your favorite listening material. If you can like us, follow us, suggest us maybe to a friend, and spend some time on a five-star review. We love seeing what you guys think about us. Welcome home. You know, I think sometimes about all of the narratives that the left likes to push out. None of them is beneficial to any of us. There's never any kumbaya. There's no togetherness. There's no pride. There's no exceptionalism. There's nothing that's glorious. There's nothing that makes you feel proud inside. It's all the suck. It's that everybody's racist and that the system is rigged against certain people. Unless we make certain accommodations, the playing field will never be even. And the results of that storyline have been so tragic. And generation after generation has been conned by such a foolish premise that inherently we dislike each other. It's 2024. We're busy. I do not look at somebody, whether they look like I do or not, and think less than them because of that. But they want you to believe that. This whole climate garbage, as I was digging into Rachel Levine's commentary about Black History Month and about climate change affecting people of color in a disproportionate fashion and all this, it's bogus. It's flat out bogus, and it makes me so angry. And this research here from this group, GSG, which put out this 65% of Black people say climate change is serious to them. It's really, really important. This group that put it out is doing nothing more than creating the tidbits of a great wrap-up smear. Now, we need some kind of data that suggests something alarming. Well, let me create that for you. We'll go out and we'll do a poll. And then we'll put out some talking points for you. And then we'll help you with your campaign ads. And then we'll get in the media, bring them in, and we'll say, hey, this is what we need you to run with. And that's what they do. And then we're going to get those young people in colleges and universities who, I guess, never learned how to think for themselves, who've been brainwashed by these institutions of higher education. And we're going to have them carry the water for us. Well, what happens when that universe of climate alarmism, of pants on fire, sky is falling, scare tactics? What happens when that collides with common sense? Well, we found out in a Senate hearing not that long ago, probably last week, that eco-alarmism doesn't hold up to common sense. And it's a bitter demise for a young lady sitting in front of a Senate hearing talking about plastics. We need to ban plastics. We need to get rid of all plastic. Do you know what plastic is doing to the ocean? Plastic is the worst. Now, there's a senator. He's new. He's from Oklahoma. His name is Mark Wayne Mullen. Mark Wayne Mullen is a father of 6. He is a Christian. He is a faithful man. He's a family man. And he represents his state in the Senate with common sense and facts. And he just absolutely eviscerates this young eco-alarmist as she tries to take the position that we must unilaterally make a decision and move away. And all Mark Wayne Mullen says is, what is your alternative? What do you suggest we use other than plastics if plastics are as bad as they are? And she is dumbfounded. Wait, what? I'm supposed to think beyond the talking point? Because that's all I know. This is like the people at Harvard pushing back against the professor whose research proved there wasn't some huge disparity in the number of fatal police incidents involving Black people, the way the media and the left want us to believe, right? You got to go beyond the bullet points, people. You got to look beyond that. And this young lady did not. So I've got 3 audio clips for you. This is how it's done. This is common sense. All of us have this. We all have the ability to do this with someone in our life who is just woeful and active and angry and out there with a mission. Audio soundbite number 1. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen says, so you want to eliminate all plastics. Well, what comes in their place? Listen.
You want to end all plastic manufacturing?
I said the plastics industry must be stopped.
So does that mean end plastic manufacturing?
I mean, in my dream world, sure. But I think that, go ahead.
No, so I don't mean to be condescending here. I just point out, what's going to replace your glasses?
So I do
wear your
know.
Glasses around your face. They're made of plastic.
Maybe.
No,
I don't know what they're made out of.
They are. What about, and I'm just pointing out some things here because I just want to be realistic when we're having conversations, because when statements are made like this, I just want to open people's eyes and say, well, okay, that's easy to say, but what's the solution? Your water bottle in front of you.
This one?
Yes. That plastic?
No.
The lid is. That's plastic.
Right. So I would say to your question that I would first be concerned about single-use plastics, and then we can talk about alternatives to this.
We're going to focus on one thing, and then we'll talk about all these other things. She's completely not prepared for anything other than the top line. We must ban all plastic to be accepted and mission accomplished, right? And Senator Mark Wayne Mullen says, well, what do you plan on using in its stead? Look around you. Everything that we have is plastic. Everything that you're wearing is based from petroleum and other things of that nature, and plastics. What are you going to do in its stead? And he continues this conversation. What is your plan? What's your plan B? She's got nothing, which underscores what this activism is all about. Just know the talking points, be angry and malignant, and demand that everybody do as you say. Doesn't work. Go.
Your cell phone there, is it plastic?
The cases, but it's glass because I broke
the components inside of
screen
it's not
yesterday.
Plastic? The components made out of it's not plastic? Yeah, they are. The water that you filled that water bottle up with, where'd you fill that water bottle up out of?
A water filling station.
All right, and it was delivered by a drink station that was plastic?
I didn't check.
The edges are. The piping coming to it. Now, you have a couple of choices with the piping. We could go back to using wood, but then you have to line it in chemical. Or we could go back and use lead, because we used to have water piping that was lead. That was harmful to us. We go back to galvanized, but galvanized rust and had discoloration. We go back to copper, but copper has to be mined, and everybody wants to stop mining in the U.S. So you use plastic to deliver piping that you fill that water bottle up with today.
She absolutely has nothing to say. She has done no research. She has no knowledge. She is there to chirp out a message, and your job, by golly, is to absorb it, abide by it, and then go out and live by it. They're not prepared for pushback. And this is the bomb of all bombs. Go.
I point this out because the clothes you have on, I guarantee you have plastic in it. The shoes you have on your feet, the soles of those shoes are plastic. So we talk about any plastic manufacturing, and everybody in here cheers when you say that, but everybody here is depending on plastic as you set. So if you want to end it, then quit using it. It's kind of like, I don't want to shop at certain places right now because I don't agree with some of their policies. I choose not to do that. You can choose to not use plastic. Do your work. If you believe it, then live it that way.
Boom. But that's not what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. There is not a single subject that these people bring forward that is any positive benefit to anybody. But it is all meant for you and for me to run around, chase our tails, argue with another, and allow them to continue getting away with what they're getting away with. You know, the Catholic Church in the crosshairs of something that's just outrageous. I got to take you to New York City. I got to take you to this Catholic Church, St. Patrick's Cathedral, because they've tapped out now too. And I've got the story for you next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network. She didn't even look and see, what do I wear or what do I use every day that is made of plastic? Didn't even have that kind of critical thought.
I'd ask how she got there.
Was not prepared. Everything she did. Did you use a curling iron on your hair? Because the handle is plastic. All of the components of the plug and the cord, plastic. Did you brush your teeth? Because your toothbrush is plastic. How about what you ate off of? Or the containers in your refrigerator? That's plastic. I mean, right?
Try to find, it's harder to find something isn't.
That was plastic, right? And she has literally no critical thought to just sit and evaluate the insanity of her argument. And he just absolutely blows her out of the water.
And you can't fight logic.
It's beautiful. And he's not trying to be a smug jag about it. He's just like, if you don't want plastic, don't use plastic. Use metal straws. Do whatever you want to do. But good luck with that. Because our world is made of plastic. And
probably a lot of it's recycled.
Yes. Hey, More Gains Fitness, More Gains, MORGAINZ Fitness.com. I think this is the last day of their merch sale. Online clothing order is going to end tonight at midnight. And she's got such great workout gear, guys, especially the ladies, cute tops that are just, they're right. Morgan's Fitness, Kelly Morgan, Air Force veteran. She owns 4 of these great gyms, Patriot-owned gyms. In Western Pennsylvania, I realize that not everybody can go into Somerset or Cambria counties and pop in and join a gym, but we can support her in other ways. And if you're so interested, check her out. Check her out at Morgan's Fitness. Buy a shirt or something of that nature, or see if you can get on her waiting list for 90-Day Ignite. This is her intensive plan to help you not only change how you eat, but change how you think about exercise and getting out there and doing it every day. And some of the stories after 90 days have been nothing like short of jaw-dropping. They're amazing. The inches and the pounds of fat that people lose and the pounds of muscle they gain. It's awesome. MoreGainsFitness.com. Check her out. This is a very interesting story. And while I can't, I'll read one, and then I did some searching yesterday to see if it had changed, and it had, which was awesome. It's good to see even the Catholic Church waking up and pushing back against some of this nonsense.
He didn't even go to the easy ones. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, because you could have been like, well, what do you use to do all your great research on plastics? Oh, your computer?
Everything in here, everything I'm looking at, our keyboard, the monitor, the
phones,
the router, all of
computers,
like televisions, tripods, microphone, headsets, like everything.
Charging cords.
Your car. What are you going to drive? What are you going to drive that is
lightweight? You'll take
weight?
Public transit. Oh, wait, that has
right
plastics in it too.
That is a fact. It's just so stupid.
You know that fridge you reached into to grab your overpriced food now? Plastics. Literally everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, all of the piping in your house, water pipes.
What they don't see is that faucet you used might be metal, but inside there's little washers in plastic.
Everything. I love Mark Wayne Mullen. He's a great pickup.
Yeah, he voted for Ukraine.
So pushback even happens in centuries-old institutions like the Catholic Church. And I want to bring you this headline from townhall.com. The left has made a mockery out of religion, out of faith, out of God. They want to twist what is right and what is wrong. And you know it. And I know it. And the majority of common sense individuals out there know it too. So this was a very interesting headline. Famous New York City Catholic Church holds funeral for atheist transgender activist. I was like, what? Here's your story. A very well-known New York City Catholic Church conformed to the left's progressive transgender agenda. St. Patrick's Cathedral held a massive funeral for transgender activist, atheist, and former sex worker Cecilia Gentili. He was the first man who identified as transgender to have a funeral held at the St. Patrick's Cathedral. The Daily Mail reported that more than 1,000 family and friends filled the church during the service. The outlet noted that guests were unconventional clothes. That's what they wore, with some wearing crocheted crop tops, thongs, and fishnet stockings. Others drew hearts on their cheeks. Funeral goers mocked Saint Cecilia, saying, "This whore, this great whore, Saint Cecilia, mother of all whores." They're literally they're standing up at the front of St. Patrick's Cathedral saying this stuff, blasphemous stuff. It was crazy. A picture near the altar showed a haloed Ms. Gentili surrounded by the Spanish words transvestite, whore, blessed, and mother above the text of Psalm 25. A mourner upstaged the priest at one point by singing Ave Maria, but changing the lyrics to Ave Cecilia before dancing through the aisles. I mean, it was crazy. It was an outrage. According to The Daily Mail, Gentili was a drug addict who worked as a sex worker after illegally entering the United States from Argentina in 2004, blah, blah, blah. So this whole thing goes crazy. And it turns out that they kind of misrepresented who the parishioner was when they went to St. Patrick's Cathedral and said, hey, we have a loved one who's passed. Can we have a mass here? And to be quite honest, the church didn't do its due diligence, didn't really research, didn't realize that this person was not a parishioner, was not a member of the church. I had no idea that it was going to be used as some mockery against religion. So I was getting very upset over the weekend. I'm like, when is the Catholic Church going to grow a pair? When is it going to do what needs to be done and push back against lunacy? Well, prayer answered. Yesterday, I woke up, searched the name, and found this story from the Daily News. St. Patrick's holds rare mass of reparation after scandalous behavior at service for New York City trans icon Cecilia Gentili. They literally held a mass, a cleansing, asking for forgiveness mass for being duped into allowing these clowns to show up and make a mockery of religion. This is the story, and it's pushback, friends. The battle lines are being drawn. St. Patrick's Cathedral held a rare mass of reparation Saturday after the Archdiocese of New York claimed mourners at a funeral service for trans icon Cecilia Gentili last week engaged in scandalous behavior. St. Patrick's pastor, the very Reverend Enrique Salvo, said that at Cardinal Dolan's request, the mass was offered to pray for forgiveness for what some Catholics considered a desecration of the historic Midtown house of worship. Thanks to so many who have let us know that they share our outrage over this scandalous behavior at a funeral here at St. Patrick's Cathedral earlier this week. The cathedral only knew that family and friends were requesting a funeral mass for a Catholic and had no idea our welcome and our prayer would be degraded in such a sacrilegious and deceptive way, Salvo said. That such a scandal occurred at America's parish church makes it worse. Dolan had not spoken about the funeral. Priests holding the service on Thursday were reportedly not told, that Gentili was trans. They totally pulled a fast one on the church, and the church, not used to being lied to, I guess, or so overtly granted it, not knowing that the individual they were going to be, quote unquote, paying homage to and celebrating in a funeral mass was an atheist, and that his friends were people who wanted to mock the church. There is pushback. And it happens now more quickly than we've seen before. And this leads me back, ladies and gentlemen, to my original premise. America's revolution begins. What side are you going to be on? It was a disgusting abuse of the goodness of religion, for which the church very quickly looked to its flock and to God and asked for forgiveness. Now, if the church can take action, what about us? Coming up next on the Wendy Bell radio program, my friends, a little too late, I think, is the vibe. In East Palestine, Ohio, Joe Biden finally arrived a year late. What was his reception like? Don't miss it next. And this person who organized the memorial for this trans person admitted to the New York Times that she did not mention Gentili was trans and kept her identity under wraps. Organizers did put out an extensive news release advertising the funeral at the church. Come join us as we give the middle finger to people who believe in all of the sacred rituals of religion, whether it's the Jewish faith, the Catholic, what have you. It's a big fungu.
But if you don't believe their
climate religion,
or not just the climate, they're
LGBT stuff,
pretending to be women can be men and men can be women.
It's all farcical.
You know all that for the men who are now pretending to be women. You know all that makeup you use?
Yeah.
Plastic.
Yeah.
You know those fake boobs you put in?
How about the fake eyelashes?
How about the when you go to have surgery?
All the equiment.
Yeah. What I see, something like
monitor,
85% of the OR room is like plastics.
How about Ireland contracting? All right. So Ireland contracting, first of all, we love Gary and Diane. They're wonderful people. We know their family. We stand by who they are because we know who they are, and they're consistently great. But this is a really good time to need new windows because you can get 3 whole years to pay off your new window bill from Ireland Contracting with 0% financing. It's a special that they're running right now for Wendy Bell Radio listeners is 36 months of 0% financing. And some people, if they qualify, will get up to 10 years to pay it off. What? Right? And so this is the busy spring season's upon us, and a lot of home shows are now coming in. Rather than going to the home show and having to like vet other vendors against one another, why not have Ireland Contracting bring the home show to you? They'll bring you all the samples. They'll bring you the double hung, the casement, the vinyl, the wood. They'll show you what their patio doors and new front doors look like. They'll show you everything. And then you decide from the comfort of your home. You can even go to Ireland Contracting's showroom, which is beautiful. Check them out, but get in touch with them because new windows are within your reach with 36 months, 0% financing. Sounds perfect. IrelandContracting.com, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, IrelandContracting.com. Let's see what you guys are up to. I'm going to quickly check my email, see if she got anything. She did not. Oh, she did. Let's see. Got it. All right. So what's going on with you guys? We got 12-4 watching, 12-5. We're in a commercial break if you're new to the show. We're delighted to have you. We are kind of unusual in that we're a radio show, that we also live stream all 3 hours of the radio show, and then TV picks up the last 2 hours of the radio show. So we're kind of everywhere. I don't know whatever stream or whatever kind of communication we're missing, but we're kind of out there. And it's fun. It's fun. We have fun doing this, and I hope you have fun watching. Huh?
Rumbles.
Oh, well, that's not my concern.
Well, it should be. We're missing.
Nope. Not gonna do it.
I'll have to take matters into my own hands.
This is just a very interesting story. I mean, it's kind of wild when you have the narrative of something and then you see it go, and that's what happened in East Palestine, Ohio on Friday, which is intriguing. Very intriguing. Ooh, and I've got to bring up something else, which is very interesting. Josh Shapiro is in my crosshairs right now.
He makes me want to throw somebody down the stairs.
Yeah, he's unfortunate. He's just he fancies
he's a liar.
He fancies himself a fine presidential contender.
Yes,
coming up, and so they're floating him out there. Check his Q score. Maybe GSG Consulting will do a poll on Josh Shapiro. Everybody loves him. They think he's really honest.
No.
Mr. When all the votes are counted. No.
3 days prior to the election.
Yeah. We were like, that is just so
right?
screwy.
Boy, what's he like, Nostradamus?
And so gross. And then Brock and I woke up on November 4th and we were like, get the out of here.
Yeah. He would never come back on the show either.
No,
we had him once, and then he would never come back. But I wonder why. We were the only show that pushed back. None of them would.
No.
We put out the Democrats. No one would come on the show.
Yep. Like, hey, if you got a great track record and you want to defend it.
Which is almost like a badge of honor.
Well, it's kind of how I feel about the thumbs down rumbles.
Right.
I appreciate
you
thumbs
definitely
ups,
want to offset them with the thumbs up.
But well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Wendy Bell radio program. You know, there are some interesting stories that bubble forward that if they didn't have such terrible collateral damage for so long, I would really enjoy. But there is nothing enjoyable out of a zip code's total destruction. It was absolutely nuked, East Palestine, Ohio. It was nuked in a toxic cloud of incompetence and just terrible decision making. And then, as we know, from our government that does not care about us, that does not care about this country, that does not care about we the people, that looks at us as people to control and revenue streams, essentially. They made that very abundantly clear in East Palestine, Ohio. So Friday was the day that Joe Biden was going to fly there. He was going to go there finally. It's been more than a year. And it is an insult. There gets to be a point, and I don't know what that sweet spot is, time-wise, when finally paying attention to something that demanded your attention from the start is insulting when you show up. That was long ago for Joe Biden in East Palestine, Ohio. Now, if this is the man for whom the most votes were ever cast, 81 million, I mean, it's truly outrageous. That's what, 18 million more allegedly than Donald Trump got in 2016 for an old man, an old mediocre man whose whole political life is based on tragedy. That was the framework from the beginning for this guy, who's done nothing except really steal documents, lie about it, and enrich himself. I mean, shall we not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Joe Biden and his crime family syndicate, at a minimum, according to Jamie Comer from House Oversight, enriched themselves to the tune of more than $20 million. $20 million? How many of you will work your entire lifetime and never know what $20 million is even close to? How many of us? And finally, it's time for Joe Biden to swing on by and see what's going on. Well, it's interesting. We got a couple audio sound bites from East Palestine, Ohio, because clearly they were not excited about Joe Biden coming. It was an insult. It was an insult. It was a photo op. It was a campaign stop. And it does not work. And it is indicative of the failure of basically the American Uniparty. They want to believe that you don't know what's going on when you see it every single day. Headline from the Post-Millennial, man from East Palestine says residents wanted truckers to block Biden from entering town. And if you're talking about the trucker boycott of New York City, don't worry about it. We've got that covered in the third hour of today's show. We're going to get there because it's meaty and it's worth waiting for. So wait a minute. A guy who has a trucking company was told or is saying that residents in his community wanted Joe Biden out. They wanted to block the road into East Palestine, Ohio, so he couldn't come in. What? That kind of goes against the whole 81 million vote thing, doesn't it? So the story goes like this from the Post-Millennial. One man in East Palestine, Ohio, said other residents asked him to block the road with trucks to prevent President Joe Biden from coming to their town after avoiding it for the last year. In an interview with ABC 5, landlord and trucking company owner Gary Allison said it's exactly what happened. In fact, let's listen to what Mr. Allison said to the news outlet. It's important. Go.
I also own a trucking company, and I've had several people call me and asked me if I could block the entrance of the town so that he can't come, because it's been over a year and now he wants to come when it's election time.
When it's election time. Right? You don't have to be at 30,000 feet looking down at the landscape to see who sucks. And it's everything that this administration does. Biden's speech lasted, you want to know how long it lasted? As he visited the small Ohio town that was the site of that toxic train derailment on February 3rd, 2023. He spoke for 6 minutes. He took no questions. He claimed that his administration, quote, was on the ground within hours, working closely with the governor. You guys remember that? Because I don't. I remember it taking 2 weeks for these morons to show up. And then Michael Regan with EPA was like, yeah, I think the water's fine. I mean, how bad can it be? And it took citizens to go out to the creeks and throw rocks in the water to show all the dead fish, to show the rainbow sheen of oil and yuck slick in the water. It's so beyond disgusting. And I want you to hear this. So we saw some video of people lining up for what ostensibly was going to be the grand caravan of Joe Biden's presidential motorcade. And people did show up. And not one of them that we saw was there in support of Joe Biden. Not a one. Now, come on. There has to be one. Signs. Go Trump. We want Trump. Let's go, Brandon. Trump, Trump, Trump. And then this gentleman says it the best, I think. Again, this is a respectful, hardworking, blue-collar community that has been summarily wiped off of the map. Property values have plummeted. Businesses have shut down. And the people who could move away did. Those who can't are stuck. And this is what one gentleman said about Joe Biden coming to town a year after the fact.
Our slogan is too little, too late, Mr. Biden.
Yeah.
This town, yeah. You don't see any support in this town for Mr. Biden.
Yeah. You say Mr. Biden.
Yeah, Mr. Biden.
That's it.
Mr. Biden.
Yeah.
Mr. Biden does not deserve the title. Whether or not you believe he earned the title, fair and square, they do not believe Joe Biden deserves the honor of the title president. Now, while this was going on, we found it very intriguing that to the east of East Palestine, Ohio, here in Pennsylvania, which I lovingly refer to as the land before time for good reason, because it is as screwy gets. And if it wasn't for Allegheny County in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia County in Philly, right? This would be a red state. Corrupt as nuts. As nuts. Josh Shapiro, governor of the state, Hack McHackmore, he goes on ABC News with Jonathan Karl and says that Donald Trump is an agent of chaos who is trying to restrict our freedom. Now, I want to juxtapose these two ideas with you. You have an administration that didn't take the time, because it doesn't care, to show up when its residents need help. It wasn't there expeditiously with money. It wasn't there with resources for people suffering health effects. Didn't help bail out people whose small businesses were destroyed. It didn't help farmers whose land is now contaminated, and for how long? Who knows? Didn't compensate them for the livestock that they lost. And we don't even know about the longitudinal effects of that toxic bomb that some dope thought, you know what? Let's just light it up. Here's Josh Shapiro saying it's Donald Trump who is an agent of chaos. And I'm not going to play any audio for you, but I wanted you to hear this because these are the talking points that you're going to be bombarded with over the next several months. Josh Shapiro finds himself to be the savior of democracy. He's defending democracy. This is Democrat talking points. And they look at Josh Shapiro as a potential presidential Democrat frontrunner down the road. Boy, oh boy, God help us all. I want you to hear what he says. He said to Jonathan Karl, on the one hand, we have an agent of total chaos, someone who wants to restrict our freedom, and someone who puts himself first, and that's Donald Trump. Isn't that an interesting talking point? When it was actually Donald Trump who has been front and center in 4 crazed indictments. It was Donald Trump who was wiretapped by Obama and Clinton. It was Donald Trump who had the CIA invent the Russian collusion hoax and had Alexander Vindman planted to lie about the quid pro quo, not to mention impeachments. And Josh Shapiro says it's Donald Trump's selfishness that is a threat to democracy. And he continues, consider this. Remember what it was like when Donald Trump was president? He was in our faces, in our living room every day, injecting chaos. Pennsylvania's governor fails to mention, of course, that the media's 95% negative news coverage and obsession with him was unlike anything we had ever seen out of propagandist regimes. And he still had record low unemployment, record low gas prices, stocked shelves, no supply chain issues, and peace. Josh Shapiro continues. Think about what will happen here in Pennsylvania if he gets to his way and he does away with Obamacare, something he's pledged to do. That means 1.2 million Pennsylvanians won't have health insurance. You know what, Josh? Obamacare sucked from day one. It has dramatically made healthcare more expensive, less convenient, and more transactional. Not only did we not get to keep our doctors or our insurance, our premiums skyrocketed, our deductibles quadrupled. By the way, Josh, what kind of medical insurance are you guaranteeing to all the migrants? Governor Shapiro continues, think about it if he gets his way with a national ban on abortion. This guy's trying to take away the freedom of millions of women across this country. Donald Trump has never said anything about banning abortion. In fact, the New York Times concocted a story based on quote unquote 2 anonymous sources who heard that Donald Trump was pushing for a 16-week ban. Donald Trump says, if you ask him, never said that. All you need to do when you listen to one of these hacks who's desperate for your attention and desperate for your vote and desperate for you to put on your clone trooper outfit and desperate for you to get into the cattle chute. All you need to do is research what they say. Spend 10 minutes. Line by line. Claim by claim, because I just did. And it is not difficult. This is how you dismantle the suck. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, on the Wendy Bell radio program, did you guys hear about the golden sneaker drop at SneakerCom over the weekend? Donald Trump making a surprise appearance. Oh boy, this really ticked off the left, and it was fantastic. Next on the Wendy Bell radio program. Brock, I think you'll like this claim that Shapiro had. He said, we've already seen what Trump's tried to do when people go and vote and choose someone other than him. He tries to overthrow the government. He's convicted him of insurrection. I didn't know that. I didn't even know he was charged with it.
Well, we've learned that
It's amazing.
You can be charged now for things you didn't do, like fraud, not paying,
Like Enrique Tarrio?
Or Donald Trump in New York. You take him to New York, you sue him for damages, even though no one was damaged.
Nobody got hurt.
Yeah, no one was damaged.
They got butthurt because he's a billionaire. His family is intact. He makes good business decisions by and large, and he's happy.
They got butthurt because he keeps winning.
Yes!
Despite everything they do.
Why
he
won't
keeps
you
winning.
listen? Listen to us.
Yeah.
So sorry, but Josh Shapiro and Rachel Levine and Chris Coons and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Adam Kinzinger.
Adam Schiff.
These are not your rock star sellers. Nobody's going to listen.
I mean, and here's another thing. They keep telling you Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar this weekend on the Sunday show. They keep running these people. Oh, he's sharp. Really? Really? Take his keys. If he was to drive, you'd be taking his keys away from him.
Isn't it just the dumbest thing?
It is.
It's just the dumbest thing.
Another thing. Joe Biden is coherent. Richard Levine is a woman.
All of these people. And then
Really?
look at Letitia James. And look at all of these
They're
people.
just angry.
They're angry and they're embroiled in their own malfeasance and fraud and abuse. And they
she goes
expect
on
to
TV,
get away with it.
And she goes on TV and says, I did not campaign on this. Like, the Wayback Machine only has to go back like a year.
I'm like, hold, please.
Yeah.
Click.
Or Fannie Willis's dad on the stand saying,
I didn't know about any money.
Money? Oh, yeah, the lawyers told me that. Okay, so she was part of it. He goes, she was part of it. Oh, well, she might have been in the room. I guarantee she was in the room.
Well, you're saying stuff that without context, so that's not helpful to them. I don't think. You'll have to say more if people didn't know what happened.
Oh, Fannie Willis's dad took the stand, and they asked him about all the money she keeps. He's like,
she's
stores.
overpaid, and she says she keeps a lot of cash, so she could pay Nathan Wade with cash, thousands of dollars worth of cash, because she always has cash because he doesn't want to be owned by a dude. And so her dad's on the stand and gets asked this question, and he was like, I didn't know anything until the lawyers told me that's what the story was. And it's like, come on, man. But they'll be allowed to get away with it. And actual really smart people out there won't get chances. So Brock sent me a picture over the weekend. These gold sneakers. Now, I'm not familiar with SneakerCon. I will tell you that. Having 5 sons, I do have more than my fair share of shoes in the house, and they are all sneaker lovers, which is great. But apparently, this is fantastic. Again, post-millennial headline. President Trump brings down the house at SneakerCon in Philadelphia. Crowd goes wild. Chants USA, USA, and FJB. Hey, gloves are off. People aren't trying to be polite anymore. Polite doesn't work. It ain't working. We can be polite to each other. We can be polite. But there are some things that we will fight till the end. You will not convince us otherwise. And anything dealing with Joe Biden is one of those big wheelhouses. So let's talk about this. On Saturday, former President Trump took to the stage at SneakerCon to an enthusiastic crowd. If I'm not mistaken, this is Philadelphia, right? I think it is. As the former president was walking up to the stage, the crowd began to chant F Joe Biden, right? In an image posted to X, a pair of solid gold sneakers with red and white soles. You love these.
I did like them. I sent you the picture and you thought I was kidding. So
I did.
I didn't get a pair.
I thought you were kidding. $399.
I told you my size.
$399. Brock was requesting a 10.5. Now, I didn't jump fast enough. It had to be less than an hour that they were up because they were sold out, immediately sold out, these sneakers. It was hilarious. So Trump gets up and he says, look, I've wanted to do this for a really long time. This is something that's ingenious about what Donald Trump is doing to campaign. It's not just the big hangars, the big airport hangars anymore. It's not the giant open fields. It's not the collegiate basketball arenas. It's not the football stadiums. It's more intimate. It's smaller venues. It's going to see UFC fights, right? It's about going to the Iowa fraternity house during a big game on a Saturday and throwing footballs and handing out pizza. It's about going to a place like SneakerCon and dropping an in-your-face, tea on the tongue, obviously for Trump, red and white soles, bright gold, winning high-top sneakers that sold out in a matter of minutes. He's winning. He's having fun. He's connecting. And people are hungry for it. And they are responding to his winning. And the left can't freaking stand it. Trump said this: I've wanted to do this for a long time. This is something I've been talking about for 12 years, maybe 13 years, and I think it's going to be a big success. Your influences have been very positive, he continued. They love it. They love that we have done what we have done as he drops the sneaker and shows everybody what it is. So I was listening to see, and I want to play an audio soundbite for you because he calls this woman up on the stage, and I think it underscores just the honesty and the raw nature of how we feel about watching our country go to hell. I was listening to CNN on the way in this morning to the radio studio, and an anchor was saying that she was aghast that Donald Trump had to create a gimmick in this sneaker to try to pay his legal bills. I was like, girl, you don't get it. You're like the climate alarmist sitting across from Senator Mullen. Mark Wayne Mullen, who just destroyed her with common sense. You realize, don't you, young lady, that you sound like a fool because you are acting foolish? The CNN woman does not understand. It's not about the man. It's about America. And there is a conduit that Americans see to reclaim their country, to reclaim sanity, to reclaim justice, to reclaim what is right. And it is through Donald Trump. I want you to hear this woman. Trump pulls this woman up. Her voice is a little difficult to listen to because she's super in the moment. And she's so passionate. And she's on the brink of tears. And in just about 40 seconds, she encapsulates the feeling of America right now. Go.
Yes, we need him. He's a Christian. He's a good, honest man. They're after him for no reason. Go out and vote for Trump. Vote Trump. No paper. Go out and vote for Trump. He's a good man. Look at his family. They're all good kids. All good kids. Yes. Vote for Trump.
I mean, her voice is 74 octaves above like the sound barrier. And she's crying. Look at what they're doing to him. Look at his family. They're all good people. Don't be fooled by the con. See and know, and then go vote. Ladies and gentlemen, when I said today that the American Revolution has begun, I should probably correct that because it started a while ago. And when you can get women like that to the brink of tears to stand up on stage and give it everything they've got, it's hard to beat. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. This $355 million judgment against Donald Trump. It's insane. It's preposterous. And it has really ticked off America's truckers. Is this that watershed moment? Don't go anywhere.
I was on Twitter looking at the people's comments about the shoes. And you know, all these people are like, oh, they're $400 or so expensive. I'm like, people spend more than that on Air Jordans. Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, get a pair of Skechers nowadays. They're like $100.
Yeah.
Unless you go to Costco and they're like 65.
Which has been really interesting to watch Tucker Carlson as he shot so much video while he was still in Russia, and watching him go from, the grocery store where they pick up food and there's enough for all of them to eat for 4 days for like $120. Right. And then they go to McDonald's and they get McDonald's for all of them for, $14 or something like that. And it's just like, you don't realize how much we've been screwed by all the inflation and the ridiculous supply chain mumbo jumbo and all of it. Until I really saw that. I was like, dang, because now like a Big Mac meal here is $18.
And you don't even get to
and
hold
it's
it
all,
on for
and
very
it's
long.
all shrunk. It's all shrunken in size. I'm going to run to the bathroom again.
Yeah, I tried to send her a picture saying these would be great. But there are some cheaper sneakers for Trump if you want to buy them. I just think it's funny when he puts them out and people are saying about the price. I know people that spend a ton of money on tennis shoes that are super expensive. I don't know when you'd wear them, but I think it's fantastic that he can essentially almost like laugh at himself. Like this is how much people. I think it goes to show how much people are pissed off with the lawfare going on. And prime example, he put out T-shirts with his mugshot on them, and they were $30 a pop. I bought two. I bought one for me and one for Wendy's husband Joe. And it said goes to the legal fence. Okay. There are some good causes out there, and to me, sticking it to Democrats is a hell of a cause to invest in. Yeah, I would not spend $400 on shoes, much like probably a lot of you, but that's not my thing. People have their things. Their shoes, their clothes, I know a guy that had like this. I dig hats. I like hats. But this guy had probably 200 different hats. And every time I talked to him, he was buying a new one he didn't have. So people have their things. And if sneakers your thing, I mean, I tried to put it out there, hey, these sneakers. And I thought you were joking.
What?
Nothing. There, like you said, there are multiple things of sneakers for him. There's white ones, there's red ones. But I'm not a sneaker guy, so some guy saw bid on a pair. They were autographed by Trump, paid $9,000 for them.
Well, did you see the GoFundMe for Trump's defense?
No, what's it up to? It's gotta be
454,000. I mean, honest to goodness, though, that's freaking hilarious.
It goes to show that people are done, that they're willing to give 5, 10, 50.
When the economy sucks, when prices are outrageous and all of us feel the way we do, people are willing to be like, yeah, I'll give to that. I got $20 for that. I'll help out.
Well, it's like I said,
when making him more
he started
popular.
The Trump mugshot T-shirts. I bought, like I said, I bought two. And I mean, one, I thought it was funny and being able to wear it around is funny to me. But
I agree. I mean, just think about Fannie Willis. She's not going to lose her position. She's going to be able to stay and do this. That corruption 101, making excuses for corruption because she's a black woman. So you have another diversity hire, which is a shame that you need to even say that. Because you know what? There are a hell of a lot of very talented black people out there. And their talent and their qualifications get squelched when you open the door to box checking appointments for people who are activists who suck. Right? So she's going to continue to do whatever she's going to do. And January 6th defendants are going to rot in jail. Yep. Okay. That's where we are. What was your moment? My moment was probably January 6th.
COVID. When you told me I couldn't go somewhere because I wasn't wearing a mask.
It was just dumb.
And we
Very
sat there
silly.
and watched two people walking in an empty parking lot holding hands wearing masks. It's just like the insanity has reached its... Remember us both looking out the window like, are you...
That was the catalyst behind
yes.
the Palm Sunday.
On the fence.
I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
Which got me called into the office.
Yep.
Just because I was questioning.
That started...
I was asking questions. I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. Like, does this feel right to you guys? And they're like, you can't do that.
She only cares about her 401k.
I'm like, what? We can't ask questions? Isn't there a First Amendment
is for the truckers
still?
Too.
F around and find out.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wendy Bell. Inspiring solutions to save America, one show at a time. Are you ready to get on board?
All right, today we're going to talk about how we can find out and how much we can find out and what it takes to get there. So let's say in this case, I want to find out at a level of 7. Okay, so I find that level on my graph and I come horizontally to my gradient line. Where it intersects with my gradient line, I'm going to come straight down to where it intersects with my round line. Now there is going to tell me how much I have to around to find out what I need to find out. See, as you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out. And also, if you stay down here and you never around, you'll never find out. So I hope this lesson is helpful. Thank you.
From sea to shining sea, 3 hours of bold truth and excellence. The Wendy Bell Radio Program.
Well, I see there's already almost $500,000 in a Give, Send, Go fund me account, whatever it is, for Donald Trump's defense fund. Do you understand how big that is? For people in this day and age where prices are out of control, I mean, it's untenable how stupidly things are priced. And people are willing to open up their wallets and give $5, $10, $20, or $100 to one of the, America's richest dudes and say, hey, we've got your 6, Mr. President, because you got screwed. You've been screwed for going on 8 years because you dared not be part of that dirty club. And you dared to love America and run on it and live by it and govern, if you will, by it and set that example. Freebeacon.com, judge lays $354 million fine on Trump, bans him from business in New York. You know what? We all expected this. That's all I'll say. We expected it. It's obnoxious. It's predictable. It's unlawful. It's outrageous. And it is just yet one more piece of proof that there is no justice. You want to talk about threat to democracy? You want to talk about that? Because what Judge Arthur Enger, or whatever his name is, Engeron, decided, without a jury, decided unilaterally and had said he would, by the way, always decide this. He gagged Donald Trump. He prevented him from presenting evidence. And now he slapped him with something that is, it is similar in nature to what they gave E. Jean Carroll, a woman who had a fantasy memory with very few details, though somehow she could remember verbatim conversations that she had with Donald Trump and what she was wearing, but could not remember all of the other specifics. And she gets something like $83 million. I mean, come on. This is how you wake up the people who are blissfully and purposefully unaware, because they see this and they say, what? So let's get the story from the Free Beacon, and then I'll give you some feedback from CNN's Abby Phillips. And she is a triggered leftist who hates Donald Trump, just like Letitia James, just like Alvin Bragg does, just like Fonnie Willis, all of them. Donald Trump must pay Donald Trump must pay $354.9 million in penalties for fraudulently overstating his net worth to dupe lenders. A New York judge ruled on Friday, handing the former U.S. president another legal setback in a civil case that imperils his real estate empire. Judge Arthur Engeron, in a sharply worded decision issued after a contentious 3-month trial in Manhattan, also banned Trump, who's running to regain the presidency this year, from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation for 3 years. Trump's lawyer has vowed to appeal. Now, there was no victim here. Nobody got hurt. There was no bank that said, look, we lent Donald Trump money because we believed when he gave us the valuation of this property and wanted to borrow off of that collateral to get a loan for this property, we believe that value of that property. And Donald Trump even said, look, all of our documents said, do your own research before you agreed to get in on a loan with us. Nobody got hurt. There were no missed payments. There was no injured party, really no plaintiff. And so why go after him? Well, we all know why. They hate people who love America. And Donald Trump would be one of them. So I want you to hear, you got the gist. All you really need to know is it's ridiculous. It is untenable. It'll be appealed. It'll be overturned. But the point is to damage his reputation so that they can say he's been found, blah, blah, blah. He's got to pay all of this. He's a terrible businessman. He's an awful person. All of this intended to injure him leading up to the November election. So, but the response to it on the left, I think, is even more important than the verdict itself. And this is, as I said, CNN's Abby Phillip. She says the myth of Donald Trump has been busted. So she's going to start, and there's actually a pretty good back and forth, kind of a mashup, where CNN has taken a clip from Letitia James, the DA in the case, and also with Trump after the verdict, back and forth, with the two sides reacting to the verdict. Listen carefully, because she sounds crazy and he sounds very matter of fact. Listen.
Today, justice has been served. Today, we prove that no one is above the law.
It's a very sad day for, in my opinion, the country.
The scale and the scope of Donald Trump's fraud is staggering.
There was no fraud. The banks all got their money, 100%. They love Trump.
I want to be clear. White-collar financial fraud is not a victimless crime.
There were no victims because the banks made a lot of money.
We are holding him accountable for lying, cheating, and a lack of contrition.
We have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump.
Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal.
You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here.
Isn't that hilarious? Now, I misspoke. I said AG. She's the AG, not the DA. So she's the attorney general, obviously. So did you hear that? Donald Trump is guilty of white-collar financial crimes. He's guilty of lying and cheating and a lack of contrition. Well, I think she should look at Joe Biden a little bit, right? I mean, if that's what we're talking about, because he actually did commit crimes. Donald Trump is the figment of the imagination of the triggered leftist. So you heard Letitia James be snarky, try to be quick-witted, and fail miserably. And Donald Trump's just like, hey, we didn't do anything wrong. Nobody got hurt. I don't know what the big deal is, but you can see what's going on. This is the garbage of a banana republic. It continues. This is CNN's Abby Phillip as she loses her mind and posits the question, if he's such a bad person and he's found guilty of this stuff, should he be entrusted to run the country? Go.
It's worth noting, Trump is now liable for fraud, sexual abuse, defamation, and he could be on the hook for January 6th, too. The judge also banning Trump from running his company for 3 years, which of course raises the obvious question for voters. If Trump isn't allowed to run a business for 3 years, should he be allowed to run the country?
That very Neil Cavuto-ish? Well, he's got 91 criminal allegations against him. They can't all be wrong. Why not, Neil? Why not, Abby? Does that not frighten you to see what's going on with this man? No, it's not, because she's part of the machine. Next, she says she's going to use a clip from the Trump-Clinton debate of the 2016 election. And Donald Trump says exactly the right thing. Look, I want to run the country the way I've run the Trump brand. My businesses are successful because I know what makes it successful. I will make America successful. Listen.
If we could run our country the way I've run my company, we would have a country that you would be so proud of. Today is a metaphor for what we can accomplish for this country.
Now remember, this is just one of the trials that Trump is facing this year. And while this one was civil, the others are criminal, and they threaten his physical freedom. Now, despite all of this, he is the likely Republican presidential nominee, and his last remaining opponent still thinks that this legal jeopardy will ultimately hurt him.
There is no way that the American people are going to vote for a convicted criminal.
Except that they are, and they will.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, underscores the mystery in the minds of the progressive left. I don't understand. See, you don't understand because you're part of the problem. And in audio soundbite number 4, Abby Phillip talks about how butthurt she is by Donald Trump's success. The more that happens against him, the stronger he becomes, the more the indictments bog him down, the more judgments take away his wealth, the more popular he is, the more shored up his support becomes. They just don't understand it. Listen.
The evidence is right there. Trump has gotten nearly 300,000 primary votes in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. That is far more than Haley or any other candidate. As you can see in this chart, every time that Trump was indicted or appeared in court, he scored a fundraising boost, which is one reason why he chooses to attend these hearings in the first place, instead of being on the campaign trail. And just to be clear, most of these appearances are a choice, is not a requirement. And the polls not only show that his dominance in the primary is there, but just 10% of Republicans think that his actions after the election in 2020 were illegal. So yes, people will vote for a felon, including Nikki Haley.
Why would you vote for a convicted felon?
Why would you vote for a convicted felon? See, Abby is one of these people who will not be saved. She does not understand. Unfortunately, as we move forward, we're going to have to leave people behind. And she'd be one of them. All right, when we come back from the Wendy Bell Radio, on the Wendy Bell Radio program, I should say, it sure sounds like a revolution is brewing on our highways because that judgment, $354 million, has done something to unite American truckers. And they've got one specific zip code in their sights. Next. When she says that Donald Trump doesn't have to be there in person, he doesn't have to be there. He wants to fundraise. If awful things were said about you and your reputation and your business acumen and your character and how you ran your life and how you ran your business and your family, do you think you'd want to be there? I absolutely would want to be there. I'd want to see everything that happened. I wouldn't miss a minute of it. And by the way, what's he missing out on the campaign trail? Who's he up against?
Not just that. How would they cover it anyways if he didn't show? He doesn't care that he assaulted a woman. He doesn't care that he took advantage of New York taxpayers. So like he's in a no-win with these propaganda networks. He's in a no-win. And I truly believe showing up is smart.
I think you need to hear those voices though, because we know the specifics. We know the whole thing was ridiculous and that, it's like calling him an insurrectionist or holding him accountable for January 6th and keeping him off the ballot because of it. That's a huge leap. And there's some pivotal things that have to happen in order for that to take place that haven't been met. But they don't care. They don't care. It's like an Etch-a-Sketch. They'll just shake it up and so it's zero again and then continue creating their lie. Hey, the Simkovich Concussion Institute, super important to have Dr. Simkovich's name and number as a just if sort of backdrop. There are thousands upon thousands of traumatic brain injuries every year suffered in car accidents, suffered in battle, in sports, in just random things that happen in our daily lives. And fixing a hurt brain is not something you take lightly. You need the best. And I'm pretty confident that the best is Dr. Charles Simkovich at the Simkovich Concussion Institute. What they do is intensive, and it's down to the chemical level inside the brain. They're able to identify the damage, where the damage is, and then quickly remediate it without drugs, without surgery, without months of treatment. But they know what they're doing, but it is what they do, right? It is the brain and getting you back on track. It's an intensive concussion protocol, concussion being in the umbrella of traumatic brain injuries. 412-366-3700. 412-366-3700. SimkovichConcussionInstitute.com. Write it down, save it on your phone, be ready for that. And they're lovely to talk to. You're gonna feel like you're not a number. Because you're not. They care about you. They really do. And you'll get that. SimkovichConcussionInstitute.com.
Someone said Trump should buy CNN.
It would be a write-off.
Well, you can't. Because running for president, you wouldn't be allowed to own that. Just like if Wendy were to run for office. She could not do this. There's laws against it. Like why Larry Elder had to give up his radio show. And who watches CNN anyways?
We have to.
I mean,
which is a bummer.
I mean, normal people.
But
we're not normal people. $285-286. Toto.
They'll get it done.
No Toto.
Nobody cares. I care, but they don't have to care.
How dare you say that?
So back in the 1760s, when we were still under British rule, what was the last straw? Well, there were a lot of last straws that led to a great rebellion, the Revolutionary War. And it was a nickel and diming of the colonies. It was taxing, not representing. It was about heavy-handed decision-making. It was about always being in charge and the colonies always knowing that they were under the thumb of Britain. And it started with the Stamp Act. Then it went to the Townshend Act. Then it went to other things. Then it led to the Boston Massacre. Then it led to the Boston Tea Party. And then it was war. Right? We're done. We're done with you believing you control us. We are free. We believe in free, enlightened principles. And we will fight for that. We're there now. We are there now. And the CNN Abby Phillip woman who doesn't understand. Or if she does, she's playing stupid magically well. She says Donald Trump doesn't have to be at these hearings, but he's here every day. It was a 3-month trial, ladies and gentlemen. And Donald Trump has been in that courtroom for the lion's share of it. In addition to going to SneakerCon, in addition to going to all these other things where he is meeting people, and they are seeing Donald Trump as not a billionaire, not as a celebrity, not as a guy who was on, who had his own television show, not as a supremely successful businessman, but as a target of incessant and illegal overreach, all under the guise of democracy. And I didn't realize this. I guess the media did a fabulous job of hiding it from us. But back in 2021, there was something that happened in Colorado. A young truck driver caused a horrific 28-car pileup in which 4 people died. It was an explosion. It was awful. His brakes failed on his rig. And a judge in the case threw the book at him. 110 years for that tragedy. Now, this wasn't something that this guy did maliciously. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't driving recklessly. His brakes went out. And he could not prevent the accident. And he was devastated. And truckers came out in protest. And in just 2 short weeks, the mass amount of truckers who spoke up, showed up, protested against this judgment, got the truckers' sentence reduced from 110 years, which was obnoxious, to 10. And this is what happens when people push back. This is what happens when you grow a pair, when you reach that final moment, when somebody has pushed you over that line that you have drawn in the sand. And you are forced to choose. And so we found this gentleman, he's a trucker, and he's in the gym, and he throws the camera around on himself. And he's basically saying, look, this judgment in New York against Donald Trump has poked the bear the final time. And if history is any indicator, this is not going to end well in New York City, as now calls for a trucker protest to stop all deliveries in New York. We are not going to you anymore. Listen.
Good morning, Patriots. This is Trucker Jake. There's talk of a trucker boycott of the city of New York to protest the persecution of President Trump. Now, liberals seem to think that this is a pretty funny idea. Let me tell you a quick story. A couple years ago, a Colorado trucker was involved in a terrible accident, loss of life. It was tragic. The Colorado judge sentenced that trucker to 110 years in prison. Now, you decide for yourself whether or not he deserved that prison sentence, but when truck drivers from around America heard about that sentence, they organized a boycott against the state of Colorado. And within a month, they brought the state of Colorado to its knees. That judge resentenced that trucker from 110 years to 10 years in prison. The point is, MAGA patriots make this country run. Liberals, they make our coffee. This is Trucker Jake. God bless President Trump. God bless MAGA America. God bless our truckers. Y'all have a blessed day.
And that is going to lead us into our final segment, ladies and gentlemen. Is it finally the last straw? Next. It's exciting. We've been saying, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? It's not the border, right? It's not, people aren't going with their firearms to the border to defend the border. We're not seeing that. Maybe it's too vast. Maybe it's too big of an issue. It feels insurmountable. What are you going to do to participate to stop that? Well, people who drive America's goods and services around, people who provide our food, who provide everything that we need by truck, by the road, are saying, screw you, New York.
Liberals are gonna find out real quick that
F around and find out.
lettuce isn't grown at a store. They're gonna find out real fast that the apples don't just appear in the store.
I sure hope that this is real.
This is what
I'm giddy over it.
Yes, this is what has to say, because going to the border or someone going to the border doesn't affect the liberal in New York. Them not delivering everything, not just food, tampons, for God's sakes, which also are made of plastic. All of their stuff, everything they need to survive, all of it, they're not going to have delivered. I hope it works.
Now, I don't know if this is true because it's from Rolling Stone. It says Trump endorses trucker campaign to stop deliveries to New York City in protest of fraud ruling. I don't know.
I don't need Trump to endorse it. I here at the Wendy Bell radio show endorse it. I also endorse rumbling. I'm saying you're losing your appeal. Only 5 thumbs down. Only 292. I don't know. I'm losing
nice
it.
try, Brock.
You're losing it.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And you can't convince me otherwise. So instead, I'll just put on more lipstick.
That'll help.
Yep.
That'll move the needle.
It's all about how Mama's feeling. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me feel much better.
I'm watching the rumbles just climb.
They'll hit it. They don't need to be cajoled.
Well, it's 11:32 and
they've got it. I don't know why you're getting all horny about it.
Well, I need to make sure I have my music ready. And I don't like to make, you know me, I don't like to make rash decisions. Methodically think things out.
It makes him very spontaneous too, I'm sure. I wouldn't know, but all right, see, it's already at 297. Look at people. They know where it's at, as Brock would say, ending a sentence in a preposition. I would never do that. I mean, yeah, I would never. Please.
Wow.
And I'm a product of public schools. I know.
Yeah, but you're the one presenter of public schools.
What?
Calabasas?
Really?
Ricky Schroeder went there. He had a silver spoon in his mouth.
Really? That's a fine extrapolation if one ever had one. But thankfully, you've made your decision just like Abby Phillips has, without doing any
wait
research.
a second. Did Ricky Schroeder go to your school?
Who?
Ricky Schroeder.
Ricky Schroeder did.
What?
So did John Davidson Jr.
See, here we go.
Him. So did Joey
the
Avalon,
Menendez
Ricky
brothers.
Avalon. Who's Avalon?
Didn't you
Joey
go to prom with the Menendez?
No, Joey Avalon. Who is the Frankie Avalon? Frankie Avalon, right? His
that
son.
was the dad.
It was son. Yeah, he was a nice kid.
My.
So what? What does that mean?
I thought you went to the prom with the Menendez brothers.
I did not go to prom with the Menendez brothers.
But did you know them?
Of course I knew them. How does that give you vindication on being a turd?
I mean, all these wealthy, they were wealthy. Their families were wealthy.
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is how crap happens. This is how it starts with an extrapolation.
Wow. You mean when I have a look on my face and you say, that look was judgmental, and it was just a look. It was not judgmental.
I don't recall that comment.
Oh, of course you don't.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Of course you don't.
This is actually a really fun story.
Way to change the subject.
This is fun.
Yeah.
And this gentleman, Lombardi, Jack Lombardi, He ran against Adam Kinzinger 10 years ago. And lost, obviously.
I bet he didn't cry about it.
No, I'm sure he did not. Hey, some men are very emotional. It is what it is. Sometimes you can't control it.
I can.
Okay.
Adam Kinzer's a big old tree, willow. That's all I'm saying. He's a willow.
It's just it's just so not necessary. But
okay, don't be a Kinzinger.
Look at you guys getting 3. Of course you did. Duh. That's why I love you. As I was sitting in front of the fireplace with my cup of coffee and Murphy by my side, that basically sealed the deal for me. The American Revolution has begun. And it was one quote by one trucker who was super hacked off, sitting in the dark in the cab of his truck on Friday night. And he said this: leave Trump the F alone. And now I obviously, for FCC reasons, I'm not going to bring you the soundbite because he swears throughout it. But I get it. I 100% get it. And this gentleman, he goes by, I think, Trucker Ray, Chicago Ray, he goes by on social media. He says, look, I've been talking to folks on the radio. I'm driving up and down the highway. Doesn't matter where you're from, where you're driving your load. Truckers are done with them effing with Trump. Knock it off. And we will not deliver any loads to New York in protest. So now I read this article from Rolling Stone. I mean, whatever you think about Rolling Stone. It says, Trump endorses trucker campaign to stop deliveries to New York City in protest of fraud ruling. This is the moment that it happens. When you have enough people who have a very important job, and their job is looked down upon, though it's extraordinarily valuable. Truckers are the ones during COVID who did everything to get our shelves as stocked as they could be. They worked tirelessly as scaredy cats on the highways and the interstates and the turnpikes, shut down all the places for our truck drivers to use the restroom, of course, because everybody was so worried about COVID. These people still made the trek cross country, and they kept us going. And now they've had enough. Protesting and saying, we will not deliver to New York City. What do you think is going to happen to New York City? It's going to go down in a hurry. Is it going to take the 12 days that it took for that Colorado judge to reverse the 110-year sentence for the driver whose brakes failed? I don't think it's going to take that long, ladies and gentlemen. We stumbled upon this great 9-minute video. And the gentleman you're about to hear is named Jack Lombardi. Jack Lombardi ran against Adam Kinzinger in the Illinois congressional race back in 2014. And this gentleman takes his phone and he turns it around and he does 9 minutes without stopping. No uhs, no ums that I can recall, just facts. And he describes that this is a full stop. Everybody out there who's paying attention to the abuse and the warfare and the lawfare against Donald Trump. sees what is going on. And the folks on the left and the uniparty who are behind it have no earthly idea what is heading their way. Audio soundbite number 1.
This movement is to refuse delivery to New York City. These Americans, red-blooded Americans, they really, well, they're tired of the warfare, the legal warfare against President Trump, and it's much bigger than President Trump. What it means to them is that our government is not playing fair with people who represent their values and their concerns. And that's alarming. This is not about President Trump himself as an individual. This is something bigger. This says that there's a group within our government, same group that prompted me to get involved, that is telling the American people, the American worker, the hardworking American that pays these taxes to the government, that their concerns don't matter.
This is the same idea that sparked the Revolutionary War. And he says in audio soundbite number 2, more and more Americans are awakening, and they see that if this is what the government that sucks can do to Donald Trump, they can do it to any single one of us. Go.
By attacking President Trump and bending and forming the law in such a way, that means it could be done to us. That means it could be done to any American citizen, and that is very alarming. That also means that the values that we cherish and keep are under attack. That means that every hard-working American that just wants to put in their honest day's worth of work, pay their little bit of taxes, well, those people don't matter. And these actions that have taken place against President Trump are sending that signal.
Sending that signal, and the signal that's being sent back, it's go time.
There is going to be a calling that's coming, and it is coming. Much like what's happening in Europe, the brave farmers who have stood up against their oppressive government, the brave farmers who have said, I've had enough. And numbers is power. And remember, folks, remember, Americans, we have the numbers. We do. And it all ends when we say we've had enough.
No. And how many times have we talked about that on this program? What is the line? What is your limit? What is that place? Where is the point of no return? Back to my son, as I alluded in the beginning, the opening monologue in hour number 1. When you've been poked and needled and fiddled with enough, what will be the final straw? Will you even know what it is before it hits you? Maybe not. But you know it exists. And it is brewing out there on the highways. Audio soundbite number 4. This gentleman, again, Jack Lombardi, who ran against Adam Kinzinger back in 2014. He said, you know what? Americans awakened to what's going on in this country, this liberal lunacy, this progressive nonsense, which is just destroying our country, when they came for our kids. Go.
We raise our children to love others different than us. We did that, and we continue to, and that's what I do in my home. I love other Americans who are different than us, and we treat them with respect. However, we don't want your kink in our children's classroom. So there's many problems that we have here. And there's a small group that is pushing the needle in this country. They're pushing their perversion into our classrooms and into our society. This is not about love. This is about distraction, disorientation, and the systematic undermining of our country and our Constitution, because this is where it all leads.
100% correct. And the icing on the poo cake, if you will, for those of us who are awakened, those of us who see what's going on in our schools, those of us see the effects in our own homes of this lunacy is now exacerbated by an untenable, unaffordable, unmanageable crisis at the southern border that was built by design. Go.
Right now, we have illegals pouring over the border. God only knows who. And we know with any bit of common sense that we're going to have another terrorist attack. And no one's going to care who you blame, because we're blaming you, Biden administration. We're blaming you, Biden loyalists. We're blaming you, Democrats. Now you can go ahead and twist the words all you want, but Americans have common sense. We're tired of being treated like we're dumb. We know exactly what's happening here. We do. And you can have dispatch all your leftist bots to attack us online. You could censor us, but we're starting to grow very tired of your games.
We have common sense. We're smarter than you think. We see. We might not respond every day, but we're watching and we're calculating, and the tally is getting to the point where it is going to be go time. And truckers are the ones who can end this, he says. Go.
The time is coming. Now, I don't want to see violence. I'm not a violent person. I hate violence. But we are going to have to show who really has the power. And the American worker has the power. The American trucker has the power to bring leftist cities to their knees by just refusing to deliver.
I think the most salient point in all of this is it ends when we say it does. Because you feel powerless. You feel like a solo individual with no pull. What kind of difference can you make? What kind of change can you make? You are everything. Because when you stand up alone on that hillside, you can start a movement. Others will follow. You will not be alone. You are not alone. We have the numbers on our side. But what is going to be that final straw? And I loved his whole conversation here because it's very common sense. It's very factual. You pushed us to various limits and we're tapping out. And if it finally takes the awakening of truckers, who, by the way, it's not just the individual drivers. It's their companies saying, we will deliver our goods elsewhere. No New York City destinations. Not going to happen now. How long is it going to take for the resources in America's second most populated city? Is it the first? I don't even know if it beats Los Angeles. Now that you've got 150,000 migrants, now that you've got MS-13 gang members with Venezuelan gangs jockeying for control of Manhattan, for the city's streets, when you have a supply chain crisis because nothing is rolling in anymore, what do you give it? A week? 2? At max? They've asked for this. And hats off to the German and the French farmers, to the Dutch farmers, to the Canadian truckers who showed us the way. Quick timeout. When we're back on the Wendy Bell Radio program, Kathy Hochul doesn't do the whole New York thing any favors. After that monster award and damaging to Donald Trump, preventing him from doing business. Why would anybody in real estate want to go to New York and do business there? Kathy Hochul says the quiet part out loud doesn't go well. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
The beautiful thing about the truckers.
I love his words. They're just so... And he just does it. It's 9 minutes and it's just like, bleh. And I was like, yes. Everything that he just said. Yes. Go ahead.
The beautiful thing about the truckers is that it's not like they can go out and hurry up and train a whole workforce of truckers.
Right.
This isn't something you learn overnight.
You're not getting some scabs.
No. That's the beautiful thing of it. You know, they could teach someone to do a lot of jobs. A truck driver, not one of them.
Kathy Hochul is another example. of just zero on the Democratic side. Just a zero. What is she? She's a woman. Big freaking whoop. What does that give you? Why are we doing like identity politics instead of doing, hey, what's best for New York? Let's do what's best for America. Let's do what's best for our children. This is not complicated. Boy, do I have to go to the bathroom.
Me too.
Holy mackerel.
I've been holding it.
Yes, me too.
How long for you?
Well, see, you're right though.
I've been an hour.
The minute you go, it's all over.
Look out.
And it's just the pits.
I mean, it's 7 for me today, just since we got here.
Wow. Well, he's on a cleanse. He's gonna do a cleanse.
I have a friend that wanted to do it too.
Water and coffee is all he can have for like
tea.
3 days. Oh, I beg your pardon. Yeah. That was such a big difference. Tea. Wow.
What?
It's called no food. You would have liked
it makes a huge difference on joints. I will say that. They say after 24 hours it stabilizes your blood sugar. 24 to 48 is like it takes down inflammation and all that, and then from 48 to 72 it supposedly works at the cellular level. So we'll see. I can afford to live off the fat of the land for a little bit, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to try. I have a friend doing it with me this time. He already said he's hungry.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I called him a Kinzinger.
I think also that just knowing that you can't eat makes your mind believe that you're super hungry. So I get it.
My whole thing, I told you this before, I said it last time. My whole thing was taking the meds on the empty stomach. That's the hardest thing for me.
Woof. Yeah, I would not like that.
Because I can't not do that. Double negative, I know. Before you start yelling and screaming.
Wasn't going to say a word.
That's probably fake news.
Before we get to Kathy Hochul stepping in a turd sandwich, I do love the idea here and the responses that Donald Trump has to so much of this insanity. It is kind of baffling to me because he's very consistent. There aren't these highs and lows. He's animated always, but he says what needs to be said and he extrapolates from what's going on to him as though he knows he's got to be the requisite whipping boy for everybody else to awaken to the lashing. To realize that it's just a matter of time before enough people have been whipped before you that your number comes up. And it has to absolutely drive the left nutty how he manages this pretty calm demeanor. It's very consistent, very calm. Such an honor, he said. He put this out on Truth Social as this idea of this trucking protest. No deliveries to New York City. This is what he said. Such an honor to have so many great patriots on the side of freedom. Joe Biden's unfair and dangerous weaponization of law enforcement is a serious threat to democracy. Make America great again. Think about that. Think how simple that is. Joe Biden's unfair and dangerous weaponization of law enforcement is a serious threat to democracy. Think about the talking points of the left. They talk about freedom. They talk about rights. They talk about justice. They talk about fairness and equity and all of this. And yet, of course, everything they do is the opposite of what they claim to care about. And Trump very clearly and succinctly summarizes the BS in one social media post. So this is where Kathy Hochul steps in it. Now, if Donald Trump can be slapped with a $350+ million judgment, claiming that he broke the law in some capacity and overinflated the value of his brand and his business in order to secure beneficial loans, even though we all know there was nobody who was injured, even if he did. And if you have even a rudimentary ability to look at real estate listings, the game is inflating value. You have no idea what somebody's going to come in and offer. So you give yourself that wiggle room to negotiate. What is this decision going to do to all real estate transactions in New York? Why would anybody ever want to do anything there ever again? You wouldn't. And Kathy Hochul seemed to understand this. Here's your headline on thehill.com. Hochul tells New York businesses not to fear about Trump verdict. Nothing to worry about, she says. What? Seems to me there's an awful lot to worry about. New York Governor Kathy Hochul addressed New York business owners in a new interview, told them there was, quote, nothing to worry about after former President Trump was hit with a $355 million fine and a ban on conducting business in New York for 3 years. Hochul joined John Katsimatidis on the Katz Roundtable on WABC 770 AM, where she was asked if other New York business people should be worried that if, quote, they can do that to the former president, they can do it to anybody. Isn't that the overarching idea? Isn't that what precipitates the awakening? If you're on autopilot or cruise control and you've been comfortably numb, not paying attention to what government has been doing, not paying attention to the gross overreach, not paying attention to the demands that we obey and that we acquiesce to every ridiculous progressive request, or else, is it this that awakens them? If they can do that to the former president, they can do that to anyone. Well, this is what Hochul said. I think that this is really an extraordinary, unusual circumstance that the law-abiding and rule-following New Yorkers who are business people have nothing to worry about because they're very different than Donald Trump and his behavior. Isn't that gross? Isn't that disgusting? Joe Biden can sell access to foreign governments. We have proof of it, that he accepted bribes to the tune of $20 to $30 million from Kazakhstan, Russia, Ukraine, where else? Romania. We've got the suspicious activity reports. We've got that FD 1023. We've got the evidence. And yet Donald Trump is the one who's the threat. He's the one who breaks the law. He's the one who lies. Now, do you believe that America is buying that? Because if you've got truckers who are the eyes and the ears of the highway, the men and the women out there who do the dirty work so that we get what we need, if they've had enough, Kathy Hochul, do you really think that everybody looks at Donald Trump as being a lawbreaker? Or do you think that they look at him as being public enemy number one because he's not part of your game? That, to me, is where this boils down. He's been found guilty of nothing. He didn't rape any women. He didn't steal any money. He didn't steal any votes. He didn't do any of that. And everyone knows it. So back to the original idea, ladies and gentlemen, the American Revolution has begun. And we'll see what the truckers do. We'll see the impact on New York, and maybe it'll awaken that quiet part in you to figure out what your line in the sand is. I'm Wendy Bell. Thanks for being here. We hope to see you back here tomorrow, 21 hours away. Until then, peace.